who at the time had achieved the mark of 100 years of life. And so it is my duty now to report that Deaconess Beryl Gerald has passed at the ripe old age of 104. Beryl was not from St. Vincent originally. She married a Vincentian in the United Kingdom and migrated here about 40 years ago. 44 years ago, she was instrumental in the formation of the Glen Baptist Church, which is one of the very important religious institutions in the constituency, and resided in Glen until her death. Was a well-known and well-loved member of the community. She has ties, her husband, in South Rivers, the Gerald family, and she had a rich send-off last week. The Glen Baptist Church, the Glen community, and the wider East St. George mourn with the Gerald family at the loss of this very dynamic and community-spirited woman. I'm obliged.
Yes. Yes, I recognize the Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I join with all those who expressed condolences to listed persons mentioned here in this honorable house. I too, Madam Speaker, would like to add the name Daffodil Richards, who was well known in Chateaubelair, a very good community-spirited, community-oriented lady who recently passed just last week, Madam Speaker. My heart goes out to her family. She has young children. I want to extend, Madam Speaker, my condolences to the family. Madam Speaker, permit me to also extend my condolences and acknowledge the passing of Desiree Richards, who, Madam Speaker, at the time of her passing, or sudden passing, was the acting director of the adult education unit within the Ministry of Education. Madam Speaker, despite spending most of her years within the South Leeward community constituency in Kittles, a very active member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, her family originally hailed from Chumuka, North Leeward, and so too her husband, who is a senior ranking, a gazetted ranking officer in the police force, Ilgen Richards, who also is a Rosal man. I attended the funeral, and Madam Speaker, from all of the sentiments expressed during the tribute section, Madam Speaker, it is clear that Desiree, during her time here on earth with us, left a very indelible mark on the lives of many who crossed paths with her during her time. Madam Speaker, importantly, she was a very strong advocate of mental health. And just this morning, while on my way to the Parliament, I received a phone call. A young man who, at the age of 22, suddenly experienced those challenges. And my mind went back to Desiree's work and advocacy for mental health and mental wellness among us as Vincentians, something that we ought to pay very keen attention to as a society, and as many of us within public life should speak a bit more about it, Madam Speaker. And if anything from Desiree's passing, Madam Speaker, I would use the legacy of her work and to honor her, is to join in the many voices who bring awareness to mental health and mental issues that are affecting particularly young people within St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Madam Speaker. And I want to use this opportunity to just highlight that, but also to extend again to her family, Matuki and the entire Richards and Lewis clan, my sincerest condolences on the passing of a beloved lady of North Leeward and South Leeward, who was done extremely well in her time to advance the many causes of Vincentians, both here and abroad. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes. I recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Yes. 1 second.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to express my condolences at the passing of Latoya Tamara Olivier from Lower Bay. She was a young woman, I think maybe in her mid-30s, 34, 35, who died suddenly in Beckway. I knew her because she spent, well, she was from Lower Bay, but she lived some time in Belmont, near to where my own family was. And she was very tragic and sudden loss, Madam Speaker. My condolences and my sympathies, my heart go out to her family members and to her young son. I also wish to acknowledge and to express my condolences at the passing of Mr. Maxwell Frederick. He was from the area we call Union Vale, spent many years there and then moved over to Cemetery Hill after he established his own family there, and he had been ailing and he passed away recently, and his funeral, I believe, is on the weekend coming. I also wish to acknowledge the passing and express our deepest condolences to the passing of Mr. Winston King, a well-known member of the taxi fraternity in Beckway. Used to be under the almond tree, holding court, part of the local almond tree parliament there for many, many years. And in declining years, Madam Speaker, he had moved up to the mainland. So that Mr. Winston King, he has passed, and my condolences to his family members. And Madam Speaker, members who had persons who had passed and funerals have been held to the mainland. So that's Sylvia Ferdinand, the mother of condolences to his former member of this honorable house, Senator Jules, and Madam Speaker, members who had esteemed political persons who had passed, candidate for the Indian Democratic Party. She, Madam Speaker, lived a long, full life, very productive life, and many wonderful things were said about her since her passing, and I'm sure before. I wish also, Madam Speaker, to also express my condolences and those of members of this side of this honorable house on the passing of Mr. Bentley Brown, to the Honorable Senator Brown, for his public service, and to acknowledge his passing and to express our deepest sympathies, Madam Speaker, on this side of the house. Those are my remarks.
Yes. Yes, I recognize the Honorable Member for Central Kingstown.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I join with colleagues on both sides of the House in expressing condolences to a number of persons. I start, Madam Speaker, with Sylvia Ferdinand, Sylvia Ines Ferdinand or Ines Sylvia Ferdinand, Miss First of Kingston Park, Morby fame, as expressed before, mother of Booty, Calvert, and Lezo Ferdinand, or 3 kids. A significant entrepreneur for very many years, well known in the Kingston Park outskirts, borderline of the Ports Avenue community, who saw very, very many people, school children, workers alike, and was known for her brand of Morby or hospitality or humanitarian service as businesswoman. Also strong Catholic church goer, come to the collection that every Sunday morning. As far as the one who I grew up with, almost like an adopted mother. Her sons being my very good friends, Booty, schoolmate, best man. Started in the cadet force together, bugle corps, drum corps. Studied with Jules at Bradford, taught the son. So very, very deep relationship. You'd allow me, Madam Speaker, to say that when I got married, I took groceries from Miss Ferdinand. I said so before, it cost me $36 per month. My rent was $80 and my salary was $168 per month. So she was indeed a lifesaver. I never owed her, I must admit. I always paid for my food before I paid my rent. Will be missed, Madam Speaker, by all of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the very many that she served. Just above her, Madam Speaker, is Mr. Ken Vera, son of the late P.H. Vera of P.H. Vera Enterprise. Only brother, I believe, of Pam and Audrey, and I think the other sister. Pam went to school with me at prep school, my dear friend, even to today. And both of them were devout Catholics, incidentally, and got buried a week apart at the Catholic Church. Madam Speaker, Dean Smith of the Anglican Church served the church faithfully and well. Stern man, but good man, you know. His wife, Dawn, was in my MBA cohort in the 90s at Cavell campus, and known and distinguished across this country for her catering before the so very many who have entered the field within recent times. Dean Smith would be remembered to the Anglican community and Bajan by birth, Vincentian by choice. We thank him and his family for his service. Madam Speaker, Elvis Elton Woodsy Woods of Calico, Taylor, cricketer, community member. That's a place I'll go to get my clothes hemmed, zip replaced, whatever it was, and he never charged. I understood that he was a friend of all policemen in Calico and Coast Guard men. That is to say they never paid for the service. But a good man, gone to the great beyond, made a tremendous contribution in his own right. Bentley Brown, I knew very well, original old Montrose man. I knew his family man well, all of the family. Always a good conversationalist and gave tremendous service in many different ways to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I would see and know Bentley. At one stage, I saw him weekly when he was receiving his dialysis treatment. And he had fairly serious challenges like so many others who go through that phase of kidney or renal failure and have to go on dialysis. I know that his family would have been under much pains several months. And I know that is so private and personal that is difficult to comment, but I'm sure that they're still feeling his loss and would so for a very long time. On both sides of the House, Madam Speaker, we mourn your loss and feel the pain under the passing, Senator, of your dear dad. Sadiqa Louis Garraway of Sharpsdale, but spent a lot of time at Mona, Jamaica, with her husband, the Garrays of the Garray family, Daniel Garray's sister-in-law. And from the tributes I heard, she was a savior to very, very many Vincentians who went through to Mona, who found themselves in trouble one time or the other, in all kind of different sorts of student challenges, accommodation, food, little help here and there, and certainly was stoic in the service and contribution to the Vincentian community. She was a veritable ambassador for St. Vincent abroad. And Madam Speaker, I close the passing of Miss Myrtle Lynch. The Lynch is a big name, a big family, Green Hill, Largo Heights, Lord Village, Sharps. Across the Central Kingston community, you're going to find a Lynch. She went to the great beyond and was buried last week. And finally, Miss Pope, Roberta Pope of Bayaboo. Her husband went a little while before her, but she also made sterling contributions through the church, through the community, and service in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. May the Madam Speaker rest in peace and light perpetual shine upon them.
Yes. Anything further? Yes, I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
No, I think Bruce does.
Yes, we'll make it quickly, please.
Madam Speaker, I join with other honorable members in recognizing the passing of those who were mentioned before. I'll do mine in the usual format. I'll list them very quickly. Madam Speaker, from the area of Barley, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Miss Jonique Mary Chambers, young lady who died in her early 20s, Miss Estina Gould, and Mr. Wilbert Doyle, also known as Bontu, as we usually call him, which was a very spirited community man and a stern supporter of the Unity Labour Party. You don't have to ask him about his politics. Madam Speaker, from Bookament, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Miss Jacqueline Hendrickson, also known as Anda. And from the area of Layou, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Miss Ivy McDowell, the passing of two sisters, Maxine George, also known as Miss Dunn, and Shirlene George Young, also known as Kay. And a good friend of mine, a youngster, Darrell Joseph, also known as Doobie. And Madam Speaker, the Miss Renella Ada Bowens of Camden Park, who lost her life, unfortunately, but who spent many of her years in the area of Layou. I want to express my heartfelt condolences to the families, and I pray that you would find comfort in the arms of the Almighty. Much obliged, Madam Speaker.
Yes. Recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, I'd like to join all colleagues in their condolences and expressions of sympathy to the families of those who have gone before us. I want to specifically join in the remembrances and for the condolences to Beryl Gerald, the family of Beryl Gerald, and Denise Richards, and Bontu, and Mother Ferdinand, Miss Ferdy, and Roberta Pope, Lydia's mom, Bentley Brown, and Dean Smith, and Dennis Joyett, and Malcolm Stewart. I want Madam Speaker to say that in respect of the persons whom I have mentioned, Bentley Brown was a very dear friend of mine. And he made an immense contribution to this country. And I was following closely with his daughter, Senator Brown, how he was navigating the last period of his life, which he bore with great courage and equanimity. Father Smith was a good friend. Unfortunately, I was at cabinet. I know two members of the cabinet went to the funeral, but there were matters and I couldn't leave. But I had spoken to his widow, Dawn, before. And of course, Dawn is from Connery Bellevue. And she is, of course, our Governor General's deputy, Dawn Smith. Father Smith is a tremendous human being, tremendous leader in the Anglican community. And he almost made the 100, a little bit shy of it. He had a very good innings. And Madam Speaker, permit me, I don't want to prolong these condolences unduly, but there are many, many students from St. Martin's and from Convent who benefited from the goodwill of Miss Ferdy. I think the honorable member for South Central Windward, the Minister of Agriculture, even when he was out of pocket, he was able to survive on the beneficence of Miss Ferdy. I hope you don't owe my Emily. Okay, I just want to make sure that you didn't owe my Emily. Um, I knew Gerald very, very well, and I was happy to see the turnout from the entire Gerald family at the church in South Rivers, where she was churched, where her beloved husband hails from. And of course, we know the legendary Dennis Joyette. Madam Speaker, there's a funeral that I went to up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Top Kettles, Malcolm's church. You know, he was a young man in his 60s, but who fixed almost everything. He worked at the port, he worked with Bragsa, a very good human being. He happens to be the sister of Mother Gomes. The brother, sorry, of Mother Gomes, who works at the residence of the official residence of the Prime Minister. Now, as all these condolences were being read out, Madam Speaker, I was just reflecting that we have evolved in our parliament, a small island society, perhaps a unique feature which none of us, we abuse it. But it is a way in which the people's representatives are kept in touch with the families. And I think it's a very touching thing that happens, and an evolution which we all recognize that this sad song of death has been heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. And it is also that which pierced the sad heart of Root. And she toiled amidst the alien corn, and it will continue onwards until civilization is at an end. And that is, all this reminds all of us of our mortality and how transient we are and how we should live better with one another. I'm obliged, Madam Speaker.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Congratulatory remarks.
Yes, I recognize the Honorable Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to offer congratulations to some of our schools who have been outstanding in their participation in various competitions, and also to some community residents. Let me start with the schools. I wish to congratulate the Beckwith Seventh-day Adventist High School for winning the 2025 National Science Quiz Competition. This competition is sponsored by the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Cooperative. That school was represented by Aidan Derrick and Janiah Carr. So I want to congratulate these outstanding students and, of course, their school. I want also to congratulate the South Rivers Methodist School in winning the 2025 primary schools cricket competition. Last year, they were the losing finalists, losing to their neighbors, the Park Hill Government School. That didn't go down too well. So I guess they were motivated this time around, and they were able to defeat the Oya Government School in the finals. I must say, Madam Speaker, the scores are encouraging given what we are doing at the West Indies level these days. So much so that the director, in his enthusiasm, the director of sports, thinking about playing the next finals, next year's finals on the lights, given the support from the community. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, I wish to congratulate the first cohort of students, well, I should call them interns, of the YES program. These interns, 40 of them altogether, participated in a TVET program training, which basically was a collaborative effort between the Ministry of National Mobilization and the Ministry of Education. Well, the Ministry of Youth, sorry. Why these students should come in for special praise? These interns, every one of them, entered the YES program without any certificate whatsoever. Most of them were persons who did not perform or completed their secondary education and hence were not successful. However, through this program, we were able to put them through a period of training starting last year, September, and I'm proud to say that they graduated in various fields at level 1 and level 2 at the CVQs, the Caribbean Vocational Qualification. Some of the courses that they excel in include business administration, housekeeping, commercial food preparation, food and drinks services, electrical installation, plumbing, and general office administration. I really want to congratulate these students and encourage them to go on from there. I want to put on record, since I was not here last House meeting, my congratulations of the grade 6 students who did so well in their CPA examination this year. I want to congratulate all the stakeholders. I don't have to name them out, but I will single out one group that you only hear of them when things don't go well. I'm talking about the officials in the Ministry of Education. I want to commend them for their efforts in ensuring that these exams are done and the students are adequately prepared. And finally, Madam Speaker, I want to commend some community-spirited individuals from the Western George constituency, more so in the Belfongo area, what we call Belair, Fountain, Gome, and surrounding areas, for their wonderful efforts in rehabilitating the Belair playing field. And soon, like other fields in the community, we are going to see a number of activities being held there. Much obliged, Madam Speaker.
Yes. I recognize the Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is with great pride and joy that I use this opportunity to firstly congratulate the Carnival Development Corporation, the CDC, the board, its management team, and all of the stakeholders for executing a wonderful Vincimas 2025. Madam Speaker, this year's Vincimas experience was one of the most exciting periods for a festival. And I say this, Madam Speaker, coming off the heels of 2024, when we had to deal with a several changes to the makeup and composition of what we call the Vincy Mass due to the passage of Hurricane Beryl. And to see the outpouring of support, the excitement, in fact, from many visitors who came to the country and the reviews in which we got from many of them. Certainly, Vincy Mass 2025 has really lived up to the expectations and will no doubt put us in a position, Madam Speaker, to really hold bragging rights to say we have one of the best carnivals in the entire world. I want to use the occasion, Madam Speaker, to place on record the results of the festival, and started, Madam Speaker, with Junior Carnival, the individual mass band of the year, the 5 to 9 category. Nelson Black was out first. Mass must play in the portrayal of Angel. And second was SG Players International, a tribute to David Julian Pillin Pollard, Africanized Bees. I think actually there was a tie for first place. And third was Blondie Bird and Friends, tribute to icons. They were respectively in third and fourth position. In the individual categories, 10 to 15 category, Blondie Bird was out front, tribute to icons. In the portrayal of Master Craftsman, tribute to Pillin Pollard. Second was SG Players International, a tribute to David Julian Pillin Pollard, Messenger. And there was a tie, in fact, for second place in that category. Both categories, SG Players copped those. The Messenger and King's Ball tied for second. Fourth place was also Nelson Block in their portrayal of Thermal Explosion. Junior Queen of the Carnival, SG Players was out front. The portrayal by Kamara Stapleton, Calypso was first. Second was Lynx Mass Band by Aja Brewster. Third was My Imagination Mass Band by Dre Belenji. And Nelson Black, Tisha Martin was fourth with the portrayal of Peace. In the Junior Kings category, SG Players was out front, Josiah Baker. In the portrayal of Kite Master, Blondie Bird took the second position with Kyle Grant, Quest in Paradise, and Extreme Fanatics Mass Band, Logan Gill's portrayal of Joker in the Pack also tied for second place. Fourth place was Nelson Block. Aclip John with Heatwave. In the junior bands category, SG Players again they were out front, leading with a tribute to Pillin Pollard. Second was Blondie Bird, tribute to Carnival Icons. And Nelson Block was third place. Mass Must Play and Lynx Mass Band Riddles was in fourth position. In the best junior section, again, SG Players continues to dominate with first place, Africanized Bees. They also copped the second position with Blue Skies, followed by Blondie Bird and Friends, Quest in Paradise, and third place, tie, also with Mirage Production, Kaleidoscope. In the Calypso competition, the primary schools, first place Calypso category went to Anique Stapleton of Evesham Methodist. Divine Sky Hackshaw, second place from the Argyle Roman Catholic School. And Lanny Bascom from the Greg's Primary, third place in the Junior Calypso category. In the secondary category, Zion Lewis of the St. Joseph Convent, Kingstown, was first place with her composition Don't Get Caught. Kerrick McCalls of the St. Joseph Convent, Marica, was second place, and Princess Lexi Dishong from the Sandy Bay Secondary School, third place. The Junior Soca Monarch category, Princess Alexia Lexi Dishong of the Sandy Bay Secondary School was out front, followed by Kyron Adams of the Sandy Bay Secondary, seemingly had two competitors, second place, and of course Jelani Sandy of the JP Eustace Secondary School, third place. In the junior pants category, school bands, Bishop's College was out front, followed by CW Prescott Primary, St. Mary's Secondary, third, and in the community bands, Starliff, Sion Hill, and Symphonix were first, second, and third, respectively. Panorama, the champions of champions. Starliff Steel Orchestra topped the first possession. And well, I'll give you the numbers so you'll know it's not barely copped the first position. It was 288 points. And Epic Song Steel Orchestra continues to improve every year, year after year. They were 274 points in second position. And Symphonix Steel Orchestra, 233 points. And Genesis Steel Orchestra, fourth with 191. Moving to the section of the bands, the mass band category, Extreme Fanatics, they were out front with a presentation, its celebration of the Extreme. Blondiebird's tribute to Carnival Icons was second. Lynx Mass Band third with Riddles and SG Players fourth with a tribute to Pilling Pollard. In the Raga Soca Monarch this year, Madam Speaker, was well attended. Perhaps record crowds we saw in Victoria Park. Yutamo Bongo Prime Rose was out front with his rendition Mardi Gras in first place, followed by Dimes and Pixel with their rendition Don't Hold Back. Third place went to Tariq Diffusion Thomas, Mission, and Alanik Anjimaya Garwe with her rendition No Owner was in fourth position. The Soca Monarch competition, Madam Speaker, saw the return of the reigning Soca Monarch, the Pong for Pong Mega Dog, and all of the names that he carries. So much names for me to call, Madam Speaker. A Peter Bedelman, and who joined with Gamal Skilly Fabulous Doyle, a Chatibale man, despite residing for some time in Green Hill, but they're two North Leeward icons. You accept that? Thank you, yes. Took the first position, Madam Speaker, with their song Europe. Yutama Rose was second with his rendition Maddest Place on Earth. Jamari Romel Stapleton was in third position. Dimes and Pixel, just Clayton Roach and Elrico Hunt were in fourth position, tied with Fire Empress, Lornet Fire Empress Ned for fourth position. The Calypso Monarch, Madam Speaker. Interesting period this year. We saw Ryan Madzard Primus retaining his crown in first position, followed by Lornet Fire Empress Ned with her rendition Children of the Drum. Chanel McKenzie in third position with Ghetto Mentality, and a fourth place tie between Zamfir Zangi Adams and Maxwell Taja Francis for fourth position with their renditions My Nation and Change for What, respectively. Madam Speaker, the Band of the Year category, Blondie was out front, tribute to Carnival Icons. There was a tie for second between Nelson Block and SGG Players. Lynx Mass Band was in fourth position, and that's in Queen of the Bands category and King of the Bands category. Melbourne Artisans were out front with their Pictorial 50. Blondie and Friends second, tribute to Icons. Third and fourth positions went to Imagination Mass Band and Verlene Ralph and the Professional, respectively. The Band of the Year, Blondie and Friends, they were out front with the Tribute to Carnival presentation. Lynx Mass Band second. Riddles, Mirage, they were in third position. And SG Players, a tribute to Pilling Pollard in fourth position. The road match title, Madam Speaker, went to, interestingly this year, Sherwood's Problem Child took the fourth and second positions. And both renditions, Afraid Horn, which was out front, followed by Pong Pong. And Minister Bruce reminded me of the lyrics to that one. They were just 3 points separating them from each other in the first and second position. So he nearly had a tie of fourth place by one artist who had penned and performed those two renditions, Madam Speaker. And Ezra and Spielberg calls up with his rendition, Red Button, was in third position, Madam Speaker. The King of Juve went to Juve Fanatics. Well, they took all of the categories in this year's Juve, both King, Queen, and individual categories. I want to congratulate them for the exceptional work that they're doing in relation to our traditional components. Just to indicate, Madam Speaker, CES didn't make it, unfortunately. Just to indicate, Madam Speaker, during the periods, the 23rd of June to the 13th of July, we saw record arrival numbers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines for Vinci Mass 2025. Of course, this is a strong recovery from as compared to previous years, and in particular last year, when we had a slight decline due to Hurricane Beryl. We had a jump of 30.6% increase over a year-on-year numbers for the 2-week period. And we saw well over 11,000+ visitors come into the destination this year, in comparison to just short of 8,500 that came to the destination in 2024. And also, Madam Speaker, the numbers are showing a 56% increase on the benchmark year we're using pre-pandemic, which is 2019. Though these numbers continue to grow, Madam Speaker, we still do have the challenge of room stock, and we're building more hotels. We're working both from a government level and from the private sector to expand our room stock. We're adding more carriers to the destination in terms of flights from our source markets, which also poses some difficulty and challenges with getting people into St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But clearly, our tourism is taking off. Our festivals and festival tourism is taking off. And we continue, Madam Speaker, to expand our tourism product and to continue to export St. Vincent and the Grenadines culturally as one of the best places to enjoy a carnival, but also the best place on earth to visit and enjoy the authentic Caribbean experience. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Much obliged.
Yes. I recognize the Honorable, Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will not be very long. I just rise to congratulate the organizers and clubs that participated in the Wendell Hercules Championships that were held on the 19th of July at the Sir Vincent Beach Sporting Facility in Diamond. Madam Speaker, we saw on display a number of our national athletes, from those who are studying in the US of A and those who are also doing studies in Jamaica, coming to our shores to put on an exceptional showing in track and field events. Madam Speaker, one of the highlights that was mentioned to me about the games is that they had the likes of Noah Lyle, who was watching this championships online. So I want to congratulate again all of our athletes who were crowned over the past weekend at these championships. And I want to encourage them to continue to push themselves and put their best effort forward as we continue to develop sports here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Much obliged, Madam Speaker.
I recognize quickly the Minister of Agriculture.
Be very brief. I rise to congratulate the organizing committee of the Greg's Na Friendem 10-10 softball cricket competition. Ended yesterday the finals, and coming out the champion, Oya Young Strikers won the finals. And for the over 40, we had Ray 11, and I played in the over 40. And I will be playing in the 2020. That will be starting on August the 17th. I'm obliged.
I recognize you, but I'm quite enjoying what's happening there for a minute.
The campaign has reached Parliament.
I recognize the honorable member for Central Kingstown.
More again, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to take congratulatory remarks on Carnival and make a few passing comments. I am a Carnival lover, Madam Speaker. In my time, I played a lot of Carnival. Blondie Bird and myself are of the original Roy Ralph, then later Dragons fame. And I literally speaking carried that Roy Ralph band to park for very many years. In those days, they narrated bands. The historians will tell you that. But on this year's Carnival, Madam Speaker, I want first, quite naturally, to congratulate my Star Steel Orchestra. And very much regret that burial pains are still impacting Sion Hill. And so, no, you came with the juniors. Don't, you're going to escape. He saw what was coming in the seniors, and he said, boy, and now this one, boom, boom. So they were sleeping. But Starlift, Madam Speaker, is, I have to repeat it, a national treasure. To go and listen to them in the Panyard rehearse, which they have outgrown, is a joy. I know before, Madam Speaker, one of our cultural icons, Sister Renee Batiste, did some work with Starlift. In fact, helped to see them to go, I think it was to England. And when one looks at the progress that steel band is making, because they tried to go down to the Bishop College yard to have the final practices where they could spread out. I know also it will fall upon me to get it done. But we probably have to see if we could expand the Panyard and upgrade the Panyard. Indeed, others may want to follow, where they can become cultural centers. People in the lead up to Carnival tend to go to Panyards and partake of the preparations. And through the year, they can have the various pan concerts, which can fit into the tourism product as well. Something to be pondering about. But my pitch really, Madam Speaker, is for us in the prize-giving exercise to see if we could annually take out champion pan side on an international tour as ambassadors for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, performing in Vincentian community and other places, as happens with Trinidad and Tobago's leading pan sites. I commend, Madam Speaker, for the attention of the Minister of Tourism. And I know that he too is guided on the matter. This year, they joined the Junior Pan Festival with the Senior Pan Festival. It is one of the few occasions in which I see you did not get synergy from a combined exercise. By which I mean the pan side hitherto, the juniors held their own on Sundays and had their own crowds, parents and others present. And the senior pan side on Thursdays also had their own support base. I assume that they figured that if they had the juniors and the seniors combined, they probably one-on-one would have made 3. But I think on this occasion, this year, one-on-one gave them 1.5. They did not get that additional. Somebody was cheated, whether it's the juniors or the seniors or both. You did not get the end result that you wanted. And I'm sure that they can go back to the drawing board and decide whether they would leave it as is or whether they would separate both sides. Now, obviously, if both PANS units grow, that is the juniors and the seniors, then the notion of having both of them on the same day is not a feasible exercise. And we do want both of them to grow. There are not enough junior PAN sites. And in this regard, let me congratulate the St. Mary's Primary School, which the minister meant to say, not secondary. The St. Mary's, for first-timers, placing 3rd, they did very well. I think they defeated a PAN side from South Rivers. And I saw that as a forecast of things to come. But you can't introduce politics into congratulations, Madam Speaker. But they did a wonderful job. A lot of joy in my heart from that result, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there's another serious observation I make with respect to Carnival. Carnival is serious business, you know. When you look at the oxygen display on the road, it's thousands of masqueraders for people like me to feast my eyes at this stage, Madam Speaker. Yes, Madam Speaker. Don't be dismayed, Madam Speaker. Hey, it's a feast. They have actually outdone Murad, who started that type of portrayal in numbers, and I would not make comment on quality. But my observation is 2 or 3-fold. One, for the number of masqueraders and women in particular on the road, clearly a large portion of those masqueraders had to come from outside. In other words, there's a lot of marketing of the band to bring those members here for carnival activity. Secondly, it's a tremendous amount of organization. And with some people say it's about nearly 5,000 of them, people paid mass. I've heard those numbers called at a costume rate of nearly 3,000. By the way, Madam Speaker, people are taking $10,000 loans now to play carnival, you know. The bankers will tell you that. It is probably the first time in our history that banks, commercial banks, would look at a carnival band and try to get their business, because you're looking about $10 to $12 million on display. It's a lot of business. But you have to commend the Oxygen and the Mirage bands for the level of organization. It has to be tremendous to get those masqueraders prepared to be down the road and force by nearly 2.5 hours, 3 hours before the bands that are 1/10 of their size, and to get them back to their the lunch area. In one case, I think the ferry boat. Feed them and get them back on the street, Madam Speaker, before Blondie Board and other bands can get back onto the road. Now, as I said, I'm involved in this thing. I make it for what it's worth. We also had a new phenomenon this year in Carnival and the portrayal in the street. Mr. Prime Minister, I invite you to listen to this. When they were making their second lap on the road, you had to beg them to try and speed up and get off the road so that Blondie Board and Company can make their fourth lap. This is true, you know. The bands were this big and disorganized that they got there first, got back on second, and the smaller bands were still trying to come out of the park to find a space on Back Street to get up the road. Now, I suspect that some of those bands either didn't complete a fourth lap or barely a lap before they could have gone off the road. Got the best word. So it speaks to a lot of business acumen, business marketing, the internationalizing of our carnival, you know, and those who are planning, and some credit has to be given to to Rodney for his work for carnival this year. I think he's deserving of that. We have here tremendous potential, Madam Speaker, for the tourism dollar. You obviously know I'm going to be very careful in my words, and I see the others on the other side is looking to me to say, well, this year, something I said last year, so they can get song bites. No song bites for you. But the carnival was good, Madam Speaker. It was good. This was a good carnival. It's a good effort. And I know thousands of Vincentians enjoy our carnival festivities, the music included. Madam Speaker, with those few observations, by the way, Madam Speaker, they rebuilt the bridge down Bottom Town, just outside the port. Hitherto, Guy and Company, we were able to sit on the bridge and observe the passing. Of course, they've carried the wall a little higher now that we now must stand and watch the parade. No, I don't know if I'll redesign the bridge. If I'll redesign the bridge, but seriously, Madam Speaker, our carnival was an enjoyable, spectacular event, and I congratulate all who participated and all who had success. The Junior Carnival wants a little bit of rework as well. I don't know. I pity the people who organize it. I mean, they've put, literally speaking, everything you can put into that carnival on Saturday. And for some reason, you're still not getting the results that your effort clearly deserves. It's one of those kinds of life experiences. I can't say they've done anything wrong, but yes, at the end of the day, you know. The last, I'm coming like MP Bramley. You always have, finally, Madam Speaker. Finally, Madam Speaker. Finally, Madam Speaker, I want to say, yeah, I want to say that maybe I should leave it out, Madam. Maybe I should leave it. Maybe I should leave it.
Very well. So I recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Just a moment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, like my colleague, I know that he was involved in every aspect of the carnival, but I too enjoyed Carnival Tuesday. And yes, the international component.
And I brought you lunch.
He did.
I brought him lunch.
He did. He saw me sitting there and said, eat this, you know, you're going to need it. And dutifully I did. Yeah. Yeah, my niece and her two friends came down from New York, and as they do every year, and enjoyed themselves. They played with Oxygen as well. But Madam Speaker, even while we celebrate, you know, all the good things that happened in Vincimas this year, and some of the things that need obvious improvement, we have to remember too, you know, the rural carnivals. In Beckway, they look forward so much to Carnival. We have Queen Show, they have T-shirt band, they have Juve, they have T-shirt, Wet Fet, all kinds of things. And this year, there was absolutely nothing. And the reason for that, the venue was not available. The fence broke down and nobody put it back up. You can't have an event if you can't secure it so that patrons have to pay to come in. And electricity wasn't available at the hard court, the Clive Tanner's hard court. And, you know, if you want to really have Carnival Vincimas grow, not just in Kingstown or in mainland, then we have to make sure that those components are properly served. We shouldn't have mass, and you have communities that want to do it. They're prepared. They've done it for many years, great success, and simply didn't have the support that they needed to do it this year. So, Madam Speaker, I want, however, to congratulate the Sylvester Simmons Foundation for hosting Fisherman's Day this year in Beckway on the weekend, the Saturday following Carnival. It's not an easy event to organize. They took it on. It used to be done by the Rotary Club for some years, and that it faded away when the Rotary Club essentially went downhill. But I want to congratulate the Sylvester Simmons Foundation for the initiative that they showed in taking it up and there was great support from the community. It was a wonderful event under the almond tree on Saturday, the 12th, the following carnival. So I wish them all the best, and I hope that they will continue. I know it was hard work. I saw the fellas towards the end of the evening. I tell them, I said, listen, this thing is going so nice, you should keep it going. And they look at me and they say, Friday, yeah, we're crazy. We're so tired. You know, when the time comes to shut down, that we shut down. But I want to also congratulate the community who came out and supported, and the fisher folk, the fishermen who went out and took part in it, because without them, the event wouldn't be successful. So well done, guys.
Very well. Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, I'd like to join all honorable members who have spoken so warmly about the carnival and about the organization. And I want to congratulate the minister, the ministry, the Carnival Development Corporation, and all the components of carnival all over St. Vincent and the Grenadines, including at the center. I also want, Madam Speaker, to say that at the same time, I'm very pleased to note that those who do not actually participate in Carnival, and there's a large section of our community that they do not participate in Carnival, but take advantage of all the parks and beaches and other places, and they have their picnics, their family gatherings, and so on and so forth. And in that regard, I want to congratulate again the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, and in this case, the authority dealing with national parks and beaches, for helping in that regard. I will urge that any entity which is organizing Carnival anywhere in Beckway or anywhere, and they find any limitation, that I am pretty sure that the entity responsible will correct that limitation, so that we can address it before, not immediately after. I want to, Madam Speaker, join with the honorable member for Central Kingston, congratulating all the steel band sides, those, for instance, in the top tier. I am prepared to have Starlift or any other organization would like to tour. First, we can try it out somewhere in the Caribbean so that we can get it, because the movement of the pans is an issue. And I'm sure that could be done. I want to say that the Carnival Development Corporation, in putting on the carnival, putting on the entire carnival, but the panorama. And to remind everyone that about 4 or 5 years before 2001, there was no panorama, and pan was deteriorating, and state policy has prompted a revival of the pan all over the country. Madam Speaker, in South Rivers, the school band side, that's one of the few pan sides which you still have the original pans from the Pan Against Crime initiative. We have to make sure that they get some new pans, but they continue to do quite well. And in as much as the honorable member for Central Kingston was ribbing me a little about South Rivers being beaten into 4th place, I just want to congratulate the primary school in South Rivers for winning the cricket competition, the primary school competition. And I want to congratulate again those in North Central Windward for coming second in the secondary school competition. We beat Owia in the primary competition, and Sandy Bay beat us in the secondary school competition. I joked with the honorable member for North Windward, the honorable minister of Transport and Works, that I had to get the names of the umpires who officiated the finals, which saw the triumph of Sandy Bay. Because I couldn't conceive of that happening, to beat George Stevens from Connery. Now, what is of interest though, Madam Speaker, is the fact that both the primary and secondary school cricket competitions, you had teams in North Central Windward and North Windward in the finals of both, which would tell you that cricket is alive and well in that part of the country, and it would be good to see it replicated across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I want to congratulate the winners of the Calypso competition, everybody, but I want to say that insofar as they are good omens, that I've been advised that I actually won. That is to say, the comrade actually won the Calypso competition because of the comrade Skank, which contributed greatly to the points for my brother Mazat. I just want to make that, and I understand that some may wish to imitate it, hoping that that may help them in another contest which we're having later this year. But we do have property rights in relation to the comrade Skank and intellectual property rights, and they cannot easily be poached. We allow Mazat with some artistic license to do so, but we wouldn't allow anybody else, certainly, to embrace that. Do I understand that the honorable member for Central Kingston is taking lessons and suggested to whom he took lunch that perhaps you should also take some lessons in the comrade Skank? I'm obliged.
Madam Clerk.
Madam Speaker, may I just mention briefly, sorry. There's a book I want to encourage all to try to get. I got this on Friday, and I've been devouring it over the weekend with the spare time which I've had. It's put out by the Caribbean Center for Human Rights. It's entitled Breaking the Chains, The Fight for Justice Beyond Colonial Laws. It was published with the support of the Open Society, the OFS. And it addresses, Madam Speaker, the impact of what are called the saving clauses, special provisions in our constitutions across the region that incorporate special provisions which protect existing customary and statutory laws against legal challenges where they contravene the principles stated in the fundamental rights provisions. And a lot of cases are discussed. There's a lot of learning on this, both at the level of the Privy Council and the Caribbean Court of Justice. And just for this to make particular sense, for example, in Section 5 of the Constitution of St. Vincent and Grenadines, it says, no person shall be subjected to torture or to inhuman or degrading punishment or treatment. But Schedule 2, well, not but, just Schedule 2 to the order in the transitional provisions, paragraph 10, protection from inhuman treatment. And I'm looking at the paragraph 10 here. There's a slight omission because I recognized it in the wording here. But it reads, nothing contained in or under the authority of any law shall be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention of Section 5 of the Constitution to the extent that the law in question authorizes the infliction of any description of punishment that was lawful in St. Vincent and the Grenadines before October the 27th, 1969, being the date on which St. Vincent Grenadines became an associate state. There are similar provisions in others, so that there are some quote-unquote colonial laws which have been saved, which may be taken to offend the fundamental rights provision in the Constitution, say, Section 5. And not everything the authors write here that I agree with, but I think that a number of colonial era legislation, items on which there are no prosecutions today, but which we can do well, even when the laws were codified by a reforming Attorney General panel, Campbell, some were brought forward from the older laws, and perhaps it is something which we ought to, in the region as a whole, certainly in the OECS, to see if we could address in some coordinated. But I just would it's the Caribbean Center for Human Rights. Caribbean Center for Human Rights. It's as I said, there are many things in it which I have questions about, and where there are things where judges pronounce upon. It would be better if Parliament pronounces upon. But I think anybody who is interested in public policy at this time going forward should perhaps get a copy of this. Thanks.
Yes.
I congratulate the Caribbean Center for Human Rights.
Yes. Madam Clerk?
Confirmation of minutes of the sitting held on Monday, 23rd June, 2025.
Honorable Prime Minister?
Madam Speaker, honorable members, I beg to move that the minutes of the sitting of this honorable House held on the June the 23rd, 2025 be confirmed.
Honorable
Absent of the Parliament. So I just draw his attention to page 16 of the minutes, because I don't know if what's written there is accurate, Madam Speaker, or whether I should read.
It is accurate, and your question is, the statement you make in your question is not correct.
Madam Speaker, the section, page 16, last paragraph reads, and this is the Minister of Finance speaking, Honorable Camille Gonzalez. The Honorable Prime Minister has indicated that after reading the question and the areas indicated in the question, that he will be happy to visit. I don't see well, Madam Speaker, so sometimes I read slowly. To visit these sites as he does individually, but he will be willing to visit the sites with the relevant public servants who have specific knowledge of these, as well as accompanied by the special, this is where I had the problem, it's whether it was the special advisor or his special advisor for Central Kingston, Mr. Marvin Fraser. I'm obliged, Madam Speaker. So my question is whether it was the special advisor or his special advisor. Is the written thing correctly, Madam Speaker? Is the or his?
Madam Speaker, I have in fact marked on the front of my minutes, page 16, because I intended to make reference to it when my honorable friend poses his question, which relates to this. Because I had this checked by the Minister of Finance who answered the question on my behalf, and that the answer given here is what is reported here, the correct minutes. And I also requested the minutes even before these were published from the office of the clerk, and I got these exact minutes. So I believe you probably, honorable member, didn't hear it well, because your statement in your question, which is before the Parliament, that question, the data the information which you have there is at variance with here, as you would recognize. Because the question, assuming that you're seeking to make a correction. The question which you no, I'm saying because you stated in your question a fact. And we're talking about the minutes. The confirmation, and I'm saying yes, and you raise it. But if you read your question 4 on the order paper, you will see that that is not what was said.
All right. So we have taken.
That's all the point I'm making. You're raising the issue of a correction, and I'm saying that on the documents before us, you have a view as to what was said, which is at variance with this. And I was given the information as to the process by which I can ascertain that what is stated here is.
I do believe that we had a second.
Just
No.
second.
No.
Just second.
Yes, actually, you can.
Well, there's no amendment.
Very well. Honorable members, the question is that
Yeah, you can accept this.
the
Second.
recording, I'll give the direction that the minutes are to be noted as being seconded by the honorable member for Central Kingstown, Madam Clerk. Honorable members, the question is that the minutes of the sitting of the meeting, the minutes of the sitting held on Monday, the 23rd June 2025 be confirmed. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of the contrary opinion, say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Madam Clerk.
Announcements by the Speaker.
There are no announcements.
Statements by ministers.
I do believe that the Honorable Minister of Tourism was on his feet. And first, and indeed he caught my eye. Seems fleet of foot today.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, it is with great satisfaction that I rise to report to this Honorable House the landmark decision of the International Court of Justice, ICJ, on obligations of states in respect of climate change, which has both national and international significance to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and other small island development states, Madam Speaker. On the 12th of April 2023, the Secretary General of the United Nations officially communicated to the ICJ the decision taken by the General Assembly of the United Nations to submit to it the questions as per Resolution 77 of 276 adopted on the 29th of March 2023, which reads, Madam Speaker, in accordance with Article 96 of the Charter of the United Nations to request the International Court of Justice, pursuant to Article 65 of the Statute of the Court, to render an advisory opinion on the following. A, the obligations of states under international law to ensure the protection of the climate system and other parts of the environment from anthropogenic emissions of greenhouse gases for states and for present and future generations. B, the legal consequences under these obligations for states where they, by their acts or omissions, have caused significant harm to climate systems and other parts of the environment. With respect to states, including in particular small island developing states, which due to their geographical circumstances and the level of development are injured or specifically affected by particular vulnerable adverse effects of climate change. And people and individuals of the present and future generations affected by the adverse effects of climate change. Madam Speaker, the ICJ took into account several conventions and treaties, including the Charter of the United Nations, the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, the International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Paris Agreement, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the duty of due diligence, the right to recognize in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in principle of prevention and significant harm to the environment, and the duty to protect and preserve the marine environment in arriving at its decision. The court received an unprecedented 91 written statements and written comments, oral hearings of 97 states, and 11 organizations were conducted between the periods the 2nd and the 13th of December 2024, with proceedings culminating in the court's advisory opinion delivered, Madam Speaker, this month on the 23rd of July 2025. Overall, Madam Speaker, there were 10 Caribbean states which presented legal arguments before the ICJ: Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominica, the Dominican Republic, Grenada, Jamaica, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. St. Vincent and the Grenadines delivered its presentation on the 11th of December 2024 at The Hague, with a delegation consisting of 4 persons. Mr. Desmond Simon charged the affairs of the embassies of the Eastern Caribbean states, the United Kingdom of Belgium, and missions to the European Union. Mr. Justice Simon, external counsel and senior tutor of the Faculty of Law of the University of Auckland. Mr. Edmund Jackson, NDC Partnership in-country facilitator within the Sustainable Development Unit in the Ministry of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development and Culture, and Ms. Shernell Hathaway, Parliamentary Counsel 3 in the Attorney General's Chambers in the Ministry of Legal Affairs. In establishing the foundational base of its advisory opinion, the ICJ noted that the consequences of climate change are severe and far-reaching. They affect both natural ecosystems and human populations. Particularly, Madam Speaker, it looked at the challenges we face from rising temperatures caused by the melting of ice sheets and glaciers, leading to sea level rise and threatening coastal communities with unprecedented flooding. It looked at the disruptions of natural habitats, which continue to push certain species towards extinction and leading to irreversible loss of biodiversity. Human life and health that are also at risk, with an increased incidence of heat-related illnesses and the spread of climate-related diseases. These consequences which underscore the urgent and existential threat posed by climate change. And of course, the court relied primarily on the reports of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, which constitutes the best available science on the causes, nature, and consequences of climate change. The court, delivering its novel legal opinion, identified the most directly relevant applicable law, as comprised, Madam Speaker, the UN Charter, the Climate Change Treaty Framework, UNFCCC, the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Agreement, the United Nations Convention and the Law of the Sea, other environmental treaties, including the Ozone Layer Treaty, the Montreal Protocol, the Biodiversity Convention, and the Desertification Convention, customary international law duties to present the significant environmental harm that is affecting our populations and international human rights law. The ICJ emphasized, Madam Speaker, that the 3 climate treaties are complementary rather than successive with the UNFCCC establishing foundational objectives and principles, the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement, which translates these into specific obligations, the Paris Agreement at 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature target, which was confirmed as a scientifical based consensus target, and the parties agreed primarily the primary temperature goal. Madam Speaker, the obligations of states under environmental treaties. The court considered that environmental and climate change treaties and the relevant obligations under customary international law inform each other. Therefore, states and state parties must take their obligations under these environmental treaties into account when implementing their obligations under the climate change treaties and under customary international law. With regards to the Paris Agreement obligations, the court held that the state parties must exercise stringent due diligence in preparing nationally determined contributions that are capable of making an adequate contribution to achieving the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal. The NDCs must therefore represent a state's highest possible ambition and become more demanding over time. Mere formal preparation is insufficient, and it is not a black hole. Substantive content must collectively achieve the agreement's temperature objective. The ICJ, Madam Speaker, further outlined in its advisory opinion that states must pursue domestic mitigation measures with due diligence to achieve NDC objectives, including the regulation of private actors. The adaptation obligations under Article 7.9 require states now, Madam Speaker, to engage in planning processes and implement actions to enhance adaptive capacity and reduce vulnerability. The court affirmed that the customary duty to prevent significant transboundary environmental harm applies fully to the climate system. Given the indisputable established risk of significant harm, states must exercise stringent due diligence, and the customary duty to cooperate for environmental protection operates within and alongside treaty obligations and requiring sustained and continuous forms of cooperation. The court went on, Madam Speaker, to look at what are the obligations of states under international human rights law as it relates to climate change. Notably, the court definitively established that states have been binding in their obligations under international human rights law to protect the climate system. Climate change significantly impairs numerous human rights, including the rights to life, health, adequate standard of living, privacy, family and home, and specific rights of women, children, and indigenous peoples. The ICJ Court recognized this as essential for the enjoyment of human rights and a binding norm of international law, stating that human rights obligations cannot be fulfilled at the same time, without ensuring the protection of the rights to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. With respect to the intergenerational equity, the present generations, the court noted, are trustees of humanity tasked with preserving dignified living conditions and transmitting them to future generations. Essentially, Madam Speaker, place the burden now on states to give consideration to future generations and their interests as it relates to the climate system and the protection of our vulnerable ecosystems. Madam Speaker, looking at the obligations of states under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the court was of the view that anthropogenic greenhouse gases, which refers, Madam Speaker, to greenhouse gases that are released in the atmosphere, as a result of human activities. Those emissions may be characterized as pollution of the environment, of the marine environment within the meaning of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. It therefore considers the Convention on the Protection of the Marine Environment as applicable in the context of anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. It further notes that states parties have an obligation under Article 194 of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea to take all necessary measures to reduce and control the pollution with the ultimate aim of preventing its occurrence altogether, although they are not required to ensure an immediate cessation of marine pollution caused by anthropogenic emissions. In the view of the court, Madam Speaker, the standard of due diligence required of states in implementing all measures necessary to prevent, reduce, and control marine pollution is stringent. These may include legislative measures, administrative procedures, and enforcement mechanisms necessary to regulate the activities concerned. As it relates, Madam Speaker, to obligations of states in relation to sea level rise and related issues, under the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, states are not obligated to update charts or geographical coordinates showing baseline and marine zones due to climate-related physical changes, though it may be argued that the court was conservative in its approach to the impacts of sea level rise on statehood. The court did affirm that once a state is established, the disappearance of one of its constituent elements would not necessarily entail the loss of statehood, establishing a strong presumption favoring continued statehood despite territorial loss. And Madam Speaker, if we were to look at some of the small island states in the Pacific, in a few years, some of them will be non-existent. And this advisory opinion is stating that they, in fact, will have that obligation protected in terms of their statehood, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just briefly looking at climate displacement and migration. Regarding the climate displacement, the court confirmed that the customary principle of non-refoulement applies, prohibiting return of individuals to territories where climate impacts would endanger their right to life. We're seeing this, Madam Speaker, quite often in the African continent, where migration is becoming a very huge issue, also in places like Haiti. And of course, Madam Speaker, if for any reason persons are displaced due to the impact of climate change, they will have a right, Madam Speaker, to claim asylum under those circumstances. Madam Speaker, the legal consequences arising from states' acts or omission that cause significant harm to the climate system and other parts of the environment. I want to, in this ministerial statement, Madam Speaker, outline that actions or omissions, importantly, by state organs, including fossil fuel production, licensing, or subsidization, may constitute internationally wrongful acts as defined by the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice. While multiple states contribute to climate change, each injured state may invoke responsibility of every state committing wrongful acts. The advisory opinion maintained that the existing sufficiently direct and certain causal nexus standard is flexible enough for climate cases, though requiring case-by-case assessment. States can now be held accountable, Madam Speaker, for acts or omissions that they fail to take in protecting the environment and, Madam Speaker, using fossil fuel production, licensing and subsidization. That is also now, Madam Speaker, considered an international wrongful act. Climate protection obligations of all states, Madam Speaker. Now there's legal interest in compliance and may invoke responsibility for breaches. Therefore, breaches trigger the full range of state responsibility consequences, cessation, non-repetition guarantees, and full reparation, whether in restitution, compensation, or satisfaction. The court noted that restitution might involve restructuring damaged infrastructure and restoring ecosystems, whilst compensation may be awarded as a global sum, given inherent uncertainty in calculating precise climate change damages. Madam Speaker, what this does is now open up the door, Madam Speaker, for potential legal challenges by affected states and particular small island developing states as it relates to the adverse impact and devastation of climate change. The advisory opinion, Madam Speaker, represents a watershed moment in international climate law, providing confirmation that existing international legal obligations, both treaty-based and customary, impose stringent duties on states to protect the climate system. It establishes a robust legal framework for climate accountability. Concluded, Madam Speaker, the opinion's authority, though not legally binding, is a springboard for transformative action derived from near universal state participation and the ICJ's position as the UN's principal judicial organ. It makes it the definitive statement of states' climate obligation under international law. It is a win, Madam Speaker, for St. Vincent and the Grenadines and other small island developing states, as this will be paramount in reinforcing the commitments of states in tackling climate change in future climate negotiations and or litigation. Madam Speaker, the only drawback from the court's decision is that the ICJ regrettably did not consider the polluter pays principle as part of the applicable law for the purposes of the advisory opinion, and whereby, Madam Speaker, the polluter should in principle be held accountable to bear the cost of their own pollution. This does not, however, preclude the possibility that forms a strict liability for hazards, acts, and other kinds of acts that are not wrongful under international law. Of course, it's a benchmark and starting point for international jurisprudence that is developing. Madam Speaker, this very important advisory opinion released by the International Court of Justice follows on a ruling by the International Tribunal of the Law on the Sea, which St. Vincent and the Grenadines welcomed last year, an advisory opinion on climate change, whereby the emissions from fossil fuels and other planet-warming gases that are observed by the ocean count as marine pollution. When taken together, Madam Speaker, we are putting together a substantive piece of international, legally binding framework that is going to ensure that small island developing states would have the best available evidence, the legally binding treaties to pursue, Madam Speaker, legal and negotiated matters that touch on concern climate change and the implications for SIDS around the world. I want, Madam Speaker, to use this opportunity to table before this Parliament the summary judgment of the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, for the records of the answered, and to state, Madam Speaker, that this is a starting point and a very groundbreaking opinion that is going to ensure that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has the legal teeth and provisions to continue our fight for climate justice across small island developing states and EOSIS. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes. So I recognize the Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Madam Speaker, the food production sector, agriculture and fisheries sector was impacted significantly by hurricane of 2024. I wish to announce several initiatives which will take place over the coming days, weeks, and months as a part of the continued recovery efforts. And just to note, by way of introduction, we completed the 27 million EC dollar injection into production. One, on Thursday, the 31st July, we begin the process of distributing 10,000 sacks of fertilizer to the farmers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, thanks to the government of Morocco. To help the farmers, we will be taking the distribution process to the communities so that the farmers do not have to come to Kingstown and incur significant costs for transportation. Two, $700,000 is available in inputs for farmers who obtain vouchers over the last 3 months. So if you received a voucher as a farmer, and when you went to the agriculture input warehouse, they were out of stock or low on supplies, you will be able to take your voucher now to the agriculture input warehouse, and from this Thursday the 31st of July, they will be honoring these vouchers in the aggregate of $700,000. The sum of $3 million was provided through a grant food security program from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to assist the farmers and fishers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This sum will be invested to purchase and to market produce primarily for the extra-regional market. And we'll be meeting with the current exporters of food from St. Vincent and the Grenadines to see how we can dovetail the work that we are doing to provide for them logistical support and also to share information. We're currently experiencing a significant increase in the production of plantains and also dasheen, and we will be utilizing some of this money to assist in stabilizing the prices. From an infrastructure standpoint, repairs continue at Lacqua and will soon begin in Lauders and Landy Park, Belmont on the leeward side. And for the arrowroot farmers of the country, we will be placing the order for the equipment for the arrowroot factory, a modern starch factory in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That order will be made in approximately 2 weeks' time. 4, on August 14th, we will receive for distribution 20,000 broiler chicks, 5,000 layers, and we want to reintroduce turkey production in the country, and 5,000 turkeys will be distributed. 5, a series of climate change meetings will be held across the country over the coming weeks. And 6, there will be a registration for backyard gardeners, persons involved in the production of food and want to enter the supply chain. And I always say that there are many persons who are growing in their backyards who do not have a farmer's ID. And because of that, they cannot sell produce in the supermarkets. I always remember that faithful cherry tree in my backyard as a student. I will get my mighty foam bucket of cherries and take to the supermarket on my way to school. The backyard gardeners must be given a form of ID so that they can do their transactions with the supermarkets. And this process will begin on Monday, August the 4th, and the Farmer Support Company will be going through the different communities. I'm obliged.
Yes. Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I don't have a statement which I'm making. I want to make a statement, however, in writing, commemorating the 187th anniversary of emancipation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In 2012, I had done a statement. Statement is updated, and I would have copies for honorable members. I'm laying one on the table of the House of the Madam Clerk, and I have one for the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. But my office will get the other copies for honorable members. I think it's an important issue that we should document for the House. I'm obliged.
Madam Clerk.
Report from Select Committee.
Madam Speaker,
Yes, Honorable Prime Minister.
through a number of exigencies, we have not been able to meet for the legal profession bill or the pharmacy bill. I want to, so they're still before the Select Committee and I have no report other than that. I want to indicate, Madam Speaker, in advance at this stage, to point out that given certain requisites which emerged from our cabinet meeting on Thursday and Friday, or cabinet meetings on Thursday and Friday, it has become necessary for us to address some matters in relation to housing and for roads that we will, is notice which we are given, Madam Speaker, because I intend to have the House suspended later this evening so that we can bring to the House very early next week, thinking of Thursday the 7th for Parliament and for Tuesday the 5th for a Finance Committee meeting on a supplementary appropriation bill and supplementary estimates specifically, maybe other things, but specifically for housing and the roads as part of the entire reconstruction of the burial. I think that would be, so I just want to indicate that in advance. I'm obliged.
Yes. Okay, that's it. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Papers.
Yes. Honorable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, honorable members. I beg to lay House of Assembly paper number 10 of 2025, the NTRC Universal Service Fund annual report for the financial statements for the period ending 31st of December 2024. The document, I believe, is in all members' packets or in all members' desks. I'm obliged.
Yes. Madam Clerk.
Questions for oral answers.
Recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Yes. Just a moment. Let's make sure that the audio is in order. Now it's on. Okay.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I rise to ask question number 1, standing in my name of the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor. It's kind of a follow-up on a question I asked earlier, but I need this one specifically. Since 2001, the government has promised to improve the conditions and operations of the fisheries centers to enable our country to once again export seafood to the EU markets, such as Martinique. But we are still barred from doing so. Will the Honourable Minister please explain why after 25 years those efforts have not succeeded and SVG is still unable to export seafood directly to European Union markets?
Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Speaker, and I am indeed grateful for the question, and I'm answering. And I am going to give a full-length answer to the question. Basically, the question is asking, why is it very time-consuming to get back to the EU market? And for persons who are listening, even though the honorable member for the Northern Grenadines, he said such as Martinique, Guadeloupe, the main aim is to get onto the mainland. And the several companies here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines who are working with companies within the EU, so that as soon as the markets are, soon as we have the green light to export to the EU, that they already have the supply chain that they will just put in place. In 2001, the European Union assessors visited St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the fish market in Kingstown. And it was reported in their report, it was reported in the audit that the Kingstown fish market, there are some stakeholders who had some operations in close proximity to the market. For example, beef marketing, persons were selling chicken. Also, that there was a heavy public foot traffic, and this raised significant concerns. For those of us who know, we're speaking about the fish market at Little Tokyo, and the question that was raised by the EU is whether or not fish can or should be exported from such an environment to Europe, whether or not they will consider it safe. So I mentioned earlier that we know what is happening in Little Tokyo. The persons selling their chicken, persons going through with their beef, people. It's a heavy foot traffic area. And another issue which was raised, and this government, we did significant work in ensuring that we address this matter. Persons selling fish outside of the fish market. There's a van coming down from Diamond Village. Somebody will walk up to the side of the van and say, get your jacks or get your robin. And the question that was raised by the European Union, that at the end of the day, when they had fish remaining, did they take them back into the same market, place them on ice? And what was the probability or the possibility of that fish ending up on the European market? And I'm happy for the question, because when we said to persons, you can't be outside the fish market, and I remember as minister, he made a statement, walking around selling the fish like that. Persons said that they didn't understand why we were doing that, but it was all part of getting things organized. So a policy decision was made as to whether or not we are going to utilize the Kingston Fish Market as a place where we will have fish for export to the European Union, or it will serve the citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the heavy foot traffic, persons doing their sales. And I must note that we also witnessed in that period an increase in the number of vendors in the market. In the meantime, post the report from the visit by the EU, we started to export fish to emerging markets. So it's not to say that since we came out of the EU market that we stopped the exports, but there were emerging markets that we exported to. And this is not to say that the EU market is not a very, very important market. And I must also note that in terms of the markets that we were able to obtain, we exported fish from Oya, the market at Oya, before the volcanic eruptions. The honorable leader of the opposition is aware that we exported fish and conch, lobster, from the market in Bekwe Seafoods. We exported live lobsters all the way from St. Vincent and the Grenadines to Hong Kong because of the Argyle International Airport. And Kingston Fish Market continued to export to the region. In answering the question, that first part in terms of 2001 to 2017 had to do with well, it would never be the preamble. It would never be that. We don't go there. So the first part had to do with activities taking place inside of the market. Important that we make the distinction. But in 2017, the government was asked to right what I consider to be some wrongs from the past in terms of our obligations historically and international legal obligations, particularly pertaining to the law of the seas. In 2017, on May the 23rd, the European Commission identified St. Vincent and the Grenadines and several other countries as not being in full compliance in the fight needed against illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. So I just want to show the dichotomy in my answer. One, we started with issues touching on concerning matters inside of the fish market. And post 2017, basically had an amalgamation of issues that persisted, and the issue, the IUU fishing issue raised by the European Commission. The three main issues which were raised. One, that St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we had scores of vessels fishing on the high seas, flying the flag of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and that we did not have the requisite human resource capacity out there to monitor all of these vessels. It's one of the issues raised. And it will be remiss of me if I don't use this point to explain that there are some persons who are out there saying that we have Taiwanese vessels fishing in our waters. It does not have anything to do with fishing in our waters. It's fishing on the high seas, which in international legal jurisprudence is a common heritage of mankind. Two, not only was the monitoring issue raised, but there were several international legal obligations regarding ratification of treaties and signing of agreements that we were not complying with for as long as we were fishing and the treaties were around. And the third issue was that the European Union said that the Fisheries Act of St. Vincent and the Grenadines had to be revised. And I will begin with the third issue first, in terms of the road ahead. A bill to amend the Fisheries Act will be brought soon before this Honorable House. I was advised by the Honorable Attorney General that the bill is completed, and in terms of the draft, and I want to explain to the stakeholders, the fisher folk of the country, why it took a little longer than we anticipated to have the revision. When we started the revision in 2019, we went into the period of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the FAO that assisted in financing it, they were not able to send to us their legal experts until after the pandemic. Also, significantly, as you will appreciate, in order to have a full revision of such an important piece of legislation, we had to go and have stakeholder meetings. After the pandemic, we went into the impact of the volcanic eruptions. And I remember up to a few months ago, when we were having the final series of meetings with the stakeholders, they were just coming out of Hurricane Beryl. As it pertains to the international legal obligations, and the technical officers in the ministry, they gave me almost a 30-page document, and I will be willing to share with persons who are willing to, who would have the time to peruse it. But St. Vincent and the Grenadines ratified, since receiving the objections as it pertains to our fight against IUU fishing, we ratified the agreement on port state measures. And what this speaks to, the international customary law is evolving to encapsulate what is taking place when you move fish in order to ensure that we tick all the boxes from a conservation standpoint. You can't just get the fish from one country and move it into another port. They want to make sure that when that fish gets to that port, that all the rules and international regulations are followed. So we were able to sign on to that treaty and to ratify that treaty. We also signed an MOU between the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And in answering the question, so what is taking so much time? The European Union, in our discussion with them, we said to them, well, if it is your case that we don't have the requisite human resource capacity to monitor these vessels, the cabinet took a decision that we will deregister all fishing vessels, we'll deflag all the fishing vessels. But a very important legal principle in international law, you can't leave the vessel flagless. You can't just wake up one morning after giving a vessel a flag, say, well, tomorrow I have a change of heart, I want back the flag. No, you have to allow the vessel reasonable time to be flagged elsewhere. So when I'm speaking about the time taken, we had to, one, show good faith to the EU that for the vessels that were flagged fishing, that we will speak to the government of Trinidad and Tobago where they were landing the fish, so that upon landing the fish, they will do the monitoring for us. You don't just enter into an agreement with another country in a matter of a week or 2 weeks. It has to go through foreign affairs. They have to review these agreements. They have to come back to you and the like. The inspection of St. Vincent and the Grenadines high seas vessels fish catch in Trinidad and Tobago for landing on 3 of the vessels took place for the first time August 2017. Then we deployed the deployment of a scientific observer on a vessel that was done on October the 13th to November the 13th, 2018. So I am showing the progress that we were making. We had an FAO legal officer come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and had a training workshop to instruct the national management stakeholders on the country's obligations vis-a-vis the United Nations Convention for the Law of the Seas. So we had to go through a period of training to speak about the International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas, ICAT, and other conventions. On May 2018, we deregistered the first vessel. On July 18th, we deregistered 10 vessels because they were able to get another flag, and we removed our flag from these vessels. And on August, so you see June, July, August 2018, we deregistered 16 of these vessels, basically bringing an end to the flagging of foreign vessels fishing on the high seas. We continue to do training with the technicians at the fisheries department to address issues touching on concerning food safety at the different markets. But the truth be told, we will not be able from these markets, based on the heavy foot traffic and the policy to keep it as a market where people can go and buy their fish, and the hustle and bustle of Kingstown, to have fish exported from that market to the EU. But it is critical that rainforest seafoods in St. Vincent and the Grenadines met the necessary threshold for export to the European market. And we are going to work with the facility at Oya when we rehabilitate that facility, and also the facility in Beckway, because you don't need 5 or so facilities in the country to all be EU export ready. You need sometimes 1 or 2 facilities, and we already have 1. But it is our view as a government that whilst the private sector has done an excellent job to get that facility, that we will want 4 facilities as well. Those that don't have that heavy foot traffic, and there's a strong possibility at some point in time in Chateaubriand that we may have that facility. Because it's one thing to get the facility up to the standard. It's costing millions of dollars to keep it at that standard in terms of staffing, in terms of training. So, and the final point is that between 2017 and now, we have signed MOUs with 11 government agencies, because wherever you are having an interaction with the fisher folk of that country, the EU said that you must clearly outline what are the rules and the regulations. I want to thank Raymond Ryan, who the former chief fisheries officer, and also Jennifer Cookshank for the work that they did. And the special task force was established early o'clock by the cabinet. The technicians in the ministry continue to do excellent work, and the FAO for their continued support. I'm obliged.
Yes. Is there a
Thank you, Madam
supplementary?
Speaker. No need for supplementary.
Very well. Question number 2.
I don't think it's very well, but no need for supplementary. Madam Speaker, I rise to ask question number 2. Standing in my name of the Honorable Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment. Many kidney patients who seek dialysis treatment at the medical center in Georgetown travel from the leeward side, leeward areas, and the Grenadines to do so, incurring severe physical hardship, high costs to get to a medical facility in Georgetown. And this was raised with me again more recently, Madam Speaker. Will the Honorable Minister consider implementing a shuttle bus service or similar transportation system from Kingstown to make it less costly and less physically demanding for patients who travel to Georgetown for treatment?
Yes, very well. Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Just allow me to make a few preliminary remarks before I look at the question directly. We have come a long way, Madam Speaker, with respect to the delivery of hemodialysis services in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We recall that Vincentians had to travel abroad to access this treatment, and this was prohibitively costly. When we factor in transportation, hotels, consultation, and treatment in other countries, it was difficult for Vincentians. So this was the first inconvenience we addressed by establishing our dialysis service at the Modern Medical Diagnostic Center at Georgetown. Initially, Madam Speaker, we delivered this service at a highly discounted rate. Then we removed the charges altogether. Madam Speaker, let me just say too that the actual cost of this service per person per year is in the region of 75,000 EC dollars. The consumables alone cost in the region of $55,000. We have at the moment 71 patients currently accessing this care, and 5 are from Beckway. As you mentioned, Grenadines. Right now we have 5 from Beckway. Madam Speaker, I'm grateful for the question because it is a very important issue in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The concern raised by the Honourable Member touches on a deeply human issue, one that underscores the intersection of healthcare, mobility, and social equity in our country. When citizens, particularly those battling chronic illnesses such as kidney disease, are forced to endure physical and financial hardship simply to access life-saving treatment, it compels us as policymakers and public servants to act with urgency and empathy. And we have been doing that. Madam Speaker, the government recognizes the difficulties faced by dialysis patients traveling from the leeward areas and the Grenadines to the medical center in Georgetown. These journeys are not only long, but very, very expensive, especially for patients who require treatment multiple times per week. And not just from leeward and the Grenadines, but also throughout the country. In my own constituency, we have more than 5 people accessing this, and it is very difficult for them. I understand that completely. The Ministry of Health initiated a collaborative effort between ourselves and the Ministry of National Mobilization to deal with this problem. As the Honourable House is aware, the Ministry of National Mobilization, Social Development, Family, Gender Affairs, and Persons with Disabilities holds national responsibility for ensuring social protection for vulnerable groups, including persons with disabilities and the elderly. Based on 2022 mid-year estimates, approximately 10,140 persons aged 65 and over, and from other records, 2,500 persons are living with disabilities and they reside across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Many among those populations face significant challenges in accessing transportation for routine and critical medical care. So not just people who do hemodialysis, but also other persons have to access this care. And while we put a lot of emphasis on primary health care, where we know we have, of course, within 10 minutes of homes, we have a facility, a health facility, there is still a problem of transportation. In response, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of National Mobilization, Social Development, Family, Gender Affairs, etc., has taken meaningful steps forward to introduce the Disability MOVE program, that's Mobile Vincentian Empowerment Service, approved in the 2025 budget. And I'll show you how we collaborate with this ministry to bring to the people the access they need. MOVE is, as I said, Mobile Vincentian Empowerment Service. This program aims to provide safe, dignified, and cost-free transportation for persons with disabilities, and importantly, will also serve select elderly individuals who experience mobility or accessibility challenges. Madam Speaker, the ministry will officially launch this service during the month of August 2025, pending an approval date by Cabinet, and Cabinet preliminarily has already given the green light for this kind of service. While the MOVE program is currently focused on persons with disabilities and elderly persons with transport challenges, the government is fully cognizant of the hardships faced by dialysis patients, particularly those traveling from outer regions to Georgetown. In that regard, the Ministry of National Mobilization, Social Development, etc., has already initiated internal discussions exploring how the MOVE service might be extended to this critical group as well as others. And these discussions include the issuance of both passes to reduce the cost of inter-island travel for patients from the Grenadines, and consideration for the inclusion in the MOVE program transport system to facilitate the journey from Kingstown to Georgetown. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of National Mobilization intends to continue to engage in formal discussions with the Ministry of Health to ensure that any proposed solution aligns, and this is important, Madam Speaker, with the scheduling and operational demands of the dialysis and other services offered through my ministry, the Ministry of Health. The goal, Madam Speaker, is to create a comprehensive, inclusive transport solution that eases the burden on our most vulnerable citizens and affirms their right to dignified, accessible health care. Madam Speaker, while the Ministry of National Mobilization will explore viable transportation solutions specifically for dialysis patients and other vulnerable groups, it is important to note that they are already actively fulfilling their mandate to support these individuals through the provision of in-kind assistance and grants. And for a number of years, they have been doing that. Patients undergoing dialysis, cancer treatment, and other critical medical interventions are regularly assisted, in many cases in full, and in others in part. And other assistance are given through the Prime Minister's office and also through the Ministry of Health, where the cost of medications, diagnostic tests, and other essential healthcare services upon request. This targeted financial support reflects the ministry's ongoing commitment to alleviating the burdens faced by those with serious health conditions. The addition of a transportation component to this existing framework of assistance would therefore represent a more holistic and integrated approach, ensuring that vulnerable patients are not only financially supported, but also physically enabled to access the care they need. And three specially configured vehicles, Madam Speaker, have already been procured to aid in this particular initiative, and they expect to do more. Madam Speaker, my ministry remains committed to bridging the gaps that separate need from service. Transportation should never be a barrier to treatment. Through the MOVE program, similar programs, and other continued collaboration with stakeholders, we are moving towards a future where compassion and accessibility are not exceptions, but the norm. This is another step, Madam Speaker, in the transformation of health service here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm Abel.
Is there a supplementary question?
Thanks, Honorable Member, Minister, for that response. I think it will give some hope and comfort to those persons who are in the difficult circumstances that you've described. I don't know if this is strictly a supplementary, but if you can provide the answer, I'd be grateful. Is it your view? Is there any statistic to demonstrate whether this kidney problems are on the increase? Because I know certainly in my own community, I'm seeing cases here that growing up I never really thought of. I don't know if they weren't identified or not, but certainly is this the incidence on the increase in this country? Because it's very, very expensive and difficult to treat.
It seems so that there is an increase in the incidence. A few months ago, we had 68. Then we went up to 78. Some passed. Now we are 71. So I think it is increasing. The hospital and the hospitals are seeing more and more people with kidney diseases. It's a chronic disease, which and it's added to the other diseases which we've been talking about in the house for the longest while, NCDs, etc. And we've been doing a lot in terms of preventative, but we see more and more is happening.
Very well. Question number 3. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to ask question number 3, standing in my name of the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development and Culture. Tourist sites are critically important to our tourism industry as they enable taxi and tour operators to provide enhanced services to visitors and thereby derive additional benefit from the industry. Yet many tourist sites in the country are underdeveloped or in poor condition. Will the minister please state whether in preparation for the upcoming tourist season, the government will repair and develop tourism sites, including Fort Hamilton and Bequia, that needs a restroom and other improvements?
Yes, Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Speaker. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for Northern Grenadines for his question, which touches on a matter of importance to, of course, our government, the enhancement and preservation of our nation's tourism sites and resources. Madam Speaker, we are fully aware that our tourism sites are not merely scenic attractions. They are vital economic assets. They allow for taxi operators, tour guides, small businesses to offer an authentic Vincentian experience that translates into real income and job opportunities for people. For this reason, Madam Speaker, we are now focused on on-site recovery and the infrastructure development of all touristic sites across the country post-Hurricane Beryl. Earlier this year, our government took decisive action and established an interministerial committee or a task force dedicated to the rehabilitation of and development of tourism sites across the country. This committee brings together key stakeholders, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Transport and Works, and critical statutory bodies such as BRAXA, Tourism Authority, National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority. And the committee, Madam Speaker, chaired by the Ministry of Tourism, Civil Aviation and Sustainable Development with a specific focus on the Department of Tourism and Policy, Planning and Administration. They have met, and over the past few months, they have actively conducted site visits across St. Vincent and the Grenadines to conduct assessments, obtain technical estimates with respect to work to be done, and determine the scope and the necessary upgrades to sites across the country, including Fort Hamilton, Madam Speaker. This has not been overlooked. In fact, the Deputy Director of Grenadines Affairs, Mr. Carlos Williams, has been one of the persons who very early, Madam Speaker, even before the passage of Hurricane Beryl, had brought a proposal with the schematics and the designs, working along with some of the government agencies to further enhance Fort Hamilton on Beckway. And of course, those designs, Madam Speaker, will be adopted by the technical committee and how we can best advance the work on the rehabilitation of sites on Northern Grenadines and in particular Fort Hamilton. Following the completion of costings, Madam Speaker, a comprehensive schedule for the phased rollout of upgrades will be finalized. This schedule is intended to ensure that each site receives attention ahead of the 2025-2026 tourist season. And I'm pleased to inform this Honorable House that works are expected to commence by mid-August for completion before the end of September 2025, barring procurement and other delays. Funding has been allocated in the capital estimates to facilitate rehabilitation and works at various sites damaged primarily by Hurricane Beryl. In the capital estimates, there's 2.2 million allocated for improvements of tourism sites. Also, there's an additional 1.1 million. The 2.2 specifically relates to Beryl recovery, and the 1.1 as it relates to improvement to tourism sites. This is in addition to funding to the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority for site improvements and enhancements, focusing more on their green engineering and aesthetics. Madam Speaker, our commitment is not only to repair, but to reimagine and have essentially the sustainability or the sustainable enhancement of these sites as they remain viable for generations of visitors and Vincentians alike. This approach, Madam Speaker, reflects the government's steadfast dedication to the tourism sector, community development, and our economic diversification as a government, country, and people. Much obliged, Madam Speaker.
Yes. Very well, we move to question, or is there, I thought you hadn't been getting.
Supplementary.
Member. Yes, supplementary.
Yes, I would like to ask the Honorable Minister, Madam Speaker, he has noted that there is a plan in place for the development of Fort Hamilton. Whether there were any consultations with stakeholders, such as taxi operators, tour guides, people who frequent the site. I certainly haven't seen any. And whether that plan is accessible so that I may have a look at it. Thank you.
Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm quite certain if the member for the Northern Grenadines take a visit to the offices of the Deputy Director. You all can work together on ironing out those issues. But, Madam Speaker, the draft proposal, Madam Speaker, is with the technical committee, which Cabinet has made a decision to establish. They will, in fact, Madam Speaker, during their site visits, come to Beckway. And I'm quite certain, Madam Speaker, as we have done in the past, we have given good attention to the Northern Grenadines as a tourism product, Madam Speaker. And you, the member for Northern Grenadines, can attest to that, having seen me at work in the revitalization of the Beckway Easter Regatta and the launching of our Sailing Week, and the excellent work that the team of the Ministry of Tourism and the Tourism Authority did as it relates to Northern Grenadines. We intend to continue in that same good vein, Madam Speaker, and to continue our full development.
So is that a yes? I can get the copy of the plan?
We will work with you in relation to that. If you want to speak to me directly, and you don't want, we can work directly. But I'll make available all of these schematics and designs once they're properly fleshed out by the technical committee. Thank you.
Question number 4. Question number 4. Yes. Yes. Honorable members, I wish for us to proceed. We are at question number 4. We are at question number 4, and I'm ready to recognize the honorable member for Central Kingstown.
Speaker.
Yes, you're welcome.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
the question and answer session before, it's important that when members are referring to the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, as we do to the Honorable Prime Minister, that we identify him by the office in the House and not just the constituency. I think this is a matter that the Prime Minister himself drew attention to quite a few sessions ago. And I think that it is important that these protocols be honored in this House, Madam Speaker.
Well, I'm not sure what
When you're
referring-
referencing the Prime Minister or the opposition leader,
Yeah.
it's not in the rules.
No, actually, if you just turn your attention to Rule 36.
That's fine, Madam Speaker. I'm a fast learner, Madam Speaker.
Yes,
I am a fast
you
learner.
can be referred to by the name of the electoral districts for
Thank
which
you
they have
very
been
much, Madam
elected.
Speaker.
Yes,
As I will do shortly to the Honorable
Yes.
Member for North Central Windward.
yes,
That's fine, that's fine. That's fine.
yes.
Question number 4 in my name, Madam Speaker. And I ask this question of the Honorable Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology. In a recent answer provided by you to a question posed by me as the duly elected representative for the constituency of Central Kingstown, you responded and or intimated that my request would be attended to by a declared candidate of the Unity Labour Party who you named. I'm asking of you now, Honorable Minister, would you please indicate when this appointment of special advisor, if I could put the emphasis, was made, and the contractual terms and conditions? The document here say auditions, clearly an error. So it should read conditions, including salary. 2, detail the duties of his appointment and explain the authority for the involvement of this individual in duties that would otherwise be discharged by a senior public servant. And, Madam Speaker, explain whether this practice accords with good governance, accountability, and transparency.
Yes, Honorable Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, before I address the honourable member directly, I'm hoping you could help me with something that was referred to procedurally by the honourable member for Central Kingstown just now, related to names and the like. My understanding, and I'm hoping you can correct me, is that in referring to a minister, you refer to that minister, the honourable minister of whatever their portfolio is. In responding to somebody who is an elected representative but not a minister, you say the honourable representative of the constituency. And in responding to a senator, you say the honourable senator and their surname.
Yes.
I'm just asking if that is the actual rule in this regard, Madam
Yes.
Speaker, for clarity.
Yes, so Rule 30, as I was intimating to the Honorable Member, Rule 36(4) sets that out very clearly. We do also have a practice that has been accepted that for the purposes of the Leader of the Opposition and the Prime Minister, that we also say Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Prime Minister. But there is nothing inherently wrong in referring to any elected member by way of the electoral district. But the rules specifically says, save and except for ministers who shall be referred to by the portfolio which he or she holds.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry to draw you into that, but I don't have my rules with me,
I'm
Madam
always
Speaker.
happy to give the direction on the rules.
The honourable member for Central Kingstown would recall that he asked a question in the last setting that was directed to the honourable Prime Minister. The honourable Prime Minister was not present, so I answered the question on his behalf. But I certainly didn't think that that meant I had adopted the question and its contents for life. So now that the honourable Prime Minister is present, I think it should be properly placed back where it began, which is with the honourable Prime Minister. So I would defer this question to the honourable Prime Minister, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Prime Minister. Honorable,
Madam,
just a moment. If you can assist the, okay.
you may withdraw it now. Go ahead.
Madam Speaker, I think the Honorable Prime Minister knows that I have the privilege to decide whether I want to hear from him or whether I would leave the question. I certainly would leave the question and would entertain the Honorable Member for North Central Windward to respond to this question. I would accept an answer from the Honorable Member for North Central Windward to this question.
But you're
And,
the Honorable Prime Minister, the member for North Central.
well, the same thing,
Yes.
same difference.
Yes. No, but the rule, yeah. I'm not sure if you have a copy of the rules, but if you have, you can borrow it from
Madam
the
Speaker.
colleague there.
You can't ask the member for North Central Windward a question. You can ask the Prime Minister a question.
Precisely.
Or the Minister of National Security or something like that.
Precisely. And that is why the rule
and he knows what they are.
yes,
he knows the
that
rules
is why
there.
the rule is so,
He
is
just
so
wants
constructive.
to be involved in mischief this afternoon. You know.
I think it's more happy banter.
That's one interpretation.
Yes, Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the first observation that I'd like to make is to draw your attention to Standing Order 20, Rule 1C, if I may quote. If a question contains a statement of fact, the member asking it shall make himself responsible for the accuracy of the statement, and no question shall be based upon a newspaper report or upon an official publication. So it's the first part that, Madam Speaker, if a question contains a statement of fact, the member asking it shall make himself responsible for the accuracy of the statement. Madam Speaker, we just approved the minutes. And the minutes, which is seconded by my honorable friend from Central Kingston, is at variance with the alleged facts that he has referred to. What he says is, in a recent answer provided by the Minister of Finance to a question posed by me as the duly elected representative for the constituent Central Kingston, he responded and or intimated that my request would be attended to by a declared candidate of the ULP, who you named. What the minutes which have been approved and which are part of the record of the House, this is what the Minister of Finance replied on my behalf. The Honorable Prime Minister has indicated that after reading the question, and the hearer has indicated in the question, that he will always be happy to visit these sites as he does individually, but he will be willing to visit the sites with the relevant public servants who have specific knowledge of these, as well as accompanied by his special advisor for Central Kingston, Mr. Marvin Fraser. I'm obliged. There is nothing that he intimated that a declared candidate of the would attend to his request. That's entirely wrong. So that the basis of the question is entirely irrelevant, Madam Speaker, because he's asking now a question on a fact, which he thinks is a fact, an allegation which he thinks is a fact, but it's not a fact. I don't mind answering it, but I don't really want to waste time on something which is not. This is entirely extraneous.
Honorable.
Madam Speaker, I happen to know that you respectfully go through these questions and determine the veracity and the foundation for these questions. And you approve this question because you properly interpreted that the reference to Marvin Fraser is an indication and satisfaction that he is also a declared candidate for the Unity Labour Party. I will not make this House a place for comedy. And therefore withdraw the question because the public now understands that we were here trying to use this House to rubber stamp a constitutional requirement in which, as representative, I can ask of the Prime Minister on behalf of my constituents, matters relevant to their interests. This question and the answer given, and that's why I drew attention carefully, to the minutes, show that they were not prepared to have the duly authorized representative in execution of his job, but will be replaced by one Marvin Fraser. Also declared,
Just a moment.
also declared, no, come on, also declared to be a candidate. I will have the answers if it's necessary. But you can't come in this house, and you just inferred it a while ago. The honorable member for the Northern Grenadines asked of the question of the Minister of Tourism, and he was suggesting that the member for the Northern Grenadines should go back and have a conversation with a declared candidate of the Northern Grenadines. Not different, it's the same thing. It's the same disrespect. I have a constitutional authority in this house, and that should not be watered down by impertinence.
Just a moment.
I withdraw the question, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, okay. And it's okay. Very well, but I just want to make one thing clear in terms of my function as it pertains to the approval of questions. My function is simply to ensure that the question is one proper enough to be asked and that it conforms and falls within the four corners of the rules. That is the extent of it. There is nothing that can be inferred from my saying this is approved. If a member thereafter raises something, because I'm not deemed to know every aspect of anything that is asked, then the members or any member can then raise a point of order as it pertains to the question, at which point I can entertain it. So it is not that you can infer anything from my having approved it. I just want to make that clear. Having said that, you are indeed constitutionally empowered to ask questions. And as has been indicated by the Honorable Prime Minister, he had no issue answering it. But I also respect the fact that you have now decided to withdraw the question. But I just wanted to put that into proper context, lest anything be left to any interpretation otherwise.
Understood, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. So we move to
question number 5 in my name, Madam Speaker.
Say one moment,
yes,
if my honorable friend will give way.
I'm not giving.
I wasn't going to say that you're obsessed with Marvin Fraser.
No.
That was not what I was going to say. If you thought that was what I was going to say, I was not going to say that.
All right. We'll move on to question number 5, please, honorable members.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question 5 in my name, Madam Speaker. And again, of the Honorable Minister of Finance, Economic Planning, and Information Technology. In your 2025 budget address, you listed the Lodge Village Health Clinic as one where construction will commence this year. Please indicate whether, in fact, designs for the facility have been completed. 2, when is construction expected to begin and finish? And lastly, whether the staffing and operational requirements are provided for in this year's estimates.
Yes, Honorable Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, honorable members. I want to say, as a matter of just editorial clarity, I'm not sure I said in the estimates, I don't have them in front of me in the budget statement, the Lodge Village Clinic. I may have said Central Kingstown, because at the time there was some discussion about redemption shops and Lodge Village.
Madam Speaker, let me assist the honorable member. I read documents very carefully. I think it may be page 54 of your address, and you listed Lodge Village
if you let me finish my
and
point.
the others. So I just want you to.
If you let me finish my point.
Of course, I'll let you finish.
The honorable member will recall that when his advocacy for the clinic began, it was in a discussion of a redemption shops clinic. And through the discussion about the locale, where it would be properly situated, given all the circumstances, it was agreed that that location will be Lodge Village. Am I stating correctly the genesis of this? Because I'm not trying to offend anybody here. I'm just saying that in the reading of the answer, if I refer to the Saudi Fund for Development's financing. The financing package refers to redemption shops, but it is the same clinic that I'm speaking to when I mean the lunch. That's all I was trying to say. I was just trying to be very clear with the honorable member. That's all I was trying to do. There's no mischief in there. The government maintains a network of health facilities that deliver primary and secondary care services to the population. Public primary health care services are delivered at 37 district clinics, 3 polyclinics, while secondary services incorporate 5 rural hospitals, a specialist medical and diagnostic center, and a mental health rehabilitation center. In addition, a residential facility offers health and social services to indigent older persons and persons with physical and mental disabilities. I believe that facility is currently resident also in Central Kingstown, the former Louis Ponette facility. Not sure where the line is drawn. That's west. Okay, apologies. In keeping with its transformative vision for the health sector, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is currently constructing the acute care hospital in Arnes Vale, funded by the Republic of Taiwan. The government has additionally secured funds from the Saudi Fund for Development, and in that agreement, we shall construct and or modernize the following healthcare facilities: Caliqua, Paget Farm, South Rivers, and as stated at the time, redemption shops, but now Lodge Village. That's the only thing I was getting to at the beginning. I wasn't trying to frighten you and say we're taking away a clinic or anything like that. These facilities will help to satisfy the increased demand for medical care and enhance the sector's resilience to the impacts of climate change and natural disasters. The main works on the healthcare facilities will include structural, plumbing, and electrical works, as well as installation and access ramps and handrails. The schedule specific to the clinic in the member's question include waiting area, staff and patient washroom, nurses station, records area, consultation areas, senior nurse's office, wounds dressings area, accident and emergency, ambulance bay, kitchenette for staff, laundry and storage areas, pharmacy, dental services, staff quarters, pedestrian and staff parking, hurricane shutters, backup power supply and water supply, and wheelchair accessibility. It is worth noting that the health facility in Caliqua will be a polyclinic as opposed to a general clinic, and will offer a broader suite of services akin to those offered at the Buckerman, Stubbs, and Levi Latham polyclinics. To date, 4 firms have been contracted to provide design services for the portfolio of projects funded by the Saudi Fund for Development. The Honorable Member for Central Kingstown, and this is relevant also to a question that is posed later by the Honorable Member for West Kingstown related to the school.
Madam Speaker, may I? I'm appreciating the response to my answer, but I don't want to be carried around the world. Could the minister speak specifically and directly to Central Kingstown and to the statement that of Lodge Village in the constituency? I don't want to hear about happening in Park Hill and South Rivers and anything. Have you completed the construction designs for Lodge Village Health Clinic? Is yes or no, or thinking about it or important? Just answer me straight now. Straight.
Honorable Minister of Finance.
I am giving the Honorable Member a very straight answer. But when the Honorable Member asks a question in this Parliament, which is a public house, I will give an answer that is fulsome in nature. That is my practice, and that is what I always do. If the Honorable Member will wait, he will hear very clearly what my answer is. But he cannot both ask and answer a question, not in this Honorable House. You have asked it, and I am answering it. And I would beg you for your patience so that I can complete answering the question. All I was saying to you is that there are 2 Saudi questions posed to me right now. One by you, one by the Honorable Member for West Kingstown. And I'm going to give you an answer related to the funding that is also relevant to the honorable member for West Kingstown's question. And in doing it now, I am hoping that the honorable member for West Kingstown will not require me to do it again, because we're all listening in the same house to the same questions. Is your question I answering, you know? I don't know, like, what's scratching today? I know I'm to you today.
You're having fun.
Yes.
To date,
Continue, Honorable Minister of Finance. Continue.
he stop have fun, man. He said his eyes were feasting over carnival, so that is fun. There are plenty whale to see. To date, 4 firms have been contracted to provide design services to the portfolio of projects financed by the Saudi Fund for Development. These firms are TVA Consultants Limited, FDL Consult Inc., Stewart Engineering Limited, and Polytechnica. In light of their vast experiences in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, including the completion of designs for the Beira South River and Belair Health facilities, FDL Consult Inc. was awarded the contract for the preparation of designs for several health facilities, including that of Lodge Village. You see how if you just wait, you come right back to the question we're asking? Currently, the finalized designs are expected to be received by the end of August 2025. As noted, the portfolio of Saudi development projects is subject to prior review, which explicitly and implicitly lengthens the time required for each phase of the procurement process. And by prior review, and it's very relevant to the honorable member's question about timing. The Saudi Fund for Development procurement procedure is prior review. And I hope respectfully that the honorable member for West Kingstown is hearing me on this, so I don't have to revisit it later on, because I'm actually reading from his answer at the moment. At every stage of the procurement process, the Saudi Fund for Development, no objection is required before proceeding to the next stage. For instance, the no objection is required for the preliminary designs, for the amended designs, for the tender package, and even for the procurement notice before launching the tender. The tendering process, as per Saudi Fund for Development procurement guidelines, requires an absolute minimum of 60 days on the market, whereas the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines tendering process requires only 40 days. In addition, the evaluation of tenders requires the Saudi Fund for Development to provide a no objection on the bid evaluation report, as well as on the subsequent contract. Altogether, the entire procurement process per Saudi Fund for Development rules takes a minimum of 120 days. That's a 4-month. That's a 4-month procedural lag in their processes. It is expected, and we anticipated this, Madam Speaker, to some extent. If the honorable member would reflect on my earlier statement in the prior budget, not this one, the prior one, where it was said, and I'm quoting from that budget, "We have anticipated some challenges and worked those challenges into our implementation projections. If we can solve them, we will come to Parliament to seek permission to exceed the existing budgetary allocations. If the challenges are more severe than anticipated, they will adversely impact our developmental plans." I went on to say, "The budget allocations for the Saudi Fund resources, though large, reflect our anticipation that there will be some hiccups along the way." The commencement of each construction activity must be preceded by the onboarding of the supervision consultant. The Saudi Fund mandates that the process of onboarding consultation firms and contractors be done consecutively, not simultaneously. So the first we have to go through the contracting process to get the consulting firm, and then we have to go through a separate process to get the contractor. All lands required for the construction of the Lodge Village Clinic have been acquired, and the site is currently being surveyed. The construction of the facility will be guided by the experience gained from the designs of other smart healthcare facilities in the country, emphasizing safety, climate resilience, and functionality. Additionally, works will be done in accordance with the St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Organization of Eastern Caribbean States building codes. The construction of the Lodge Village Health Clinic is scheduled to begin in January of 2026. The construction period is anticipated to be 18 months with a completion date of June 2027. As such, the operational and staffing requirements of the facility will be guided by what currently exists for similar facilities, as well as projections for quality service delivery and healthcare demands. The Lodge Village Health Facility was not intended to be operationalized in 2025. It's worth noting that the funds allocated in the 2025 estimates, and the Honorable Member says he's very familiar with the estimates, so he can check this, were intended to support the completion of designs, the securing of the construction supervision consultancy, and the commencement of works. As mentioned above, the envisaged completion date is June 2027. So the provision for staffing and other aspects of operations, because not just staffing, as the Honorable Member would know, you had to pay the light, you had to pay the water, you had to buy the consumables and everything, will be made in the 2027 estimates of revenue and expenditure. Obliged.
Yes. Is there a supplementary question? Thank you.
No supplement, Madam Speaker. I understand clearly the health facility will be available 2027, correct? Or thereabout.
Correct.
That's all I wanted to hear.
Question number 6.
Question 6, Madam Speaker, in my name of the Honorable Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology. After approximately 25 years in office, there has been no, and I've changed the word allocation to appropriation, Madam Speaker, if there's no objection, for hardcore sporting facilities in Redemption Shops, Kingston Park, or Lago Heights. In addition, Madam Speaker, there has been no capital appropriation set aside for the improvement of the Redemption Shops playing field during this near 25-year period. I put that in again for emphasis. Will the Honorable Minister, Madam Speaker, explain to me what are the immediate plans for the improvement of the playing surfaces, change rooms, and bathrooms for these fields in Redemption Shops and Lago Heights? And Madam Speaker, whether you would indicate the reasons why there has been no appropriation for the lighting of the Redemption Shops playing field and Lago Heights playing field after 25 years.
Honorable Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I sincerely appreciate that the Honorable Member for Central Kingstown wanted to chat with me today. He asked all three of his questions of of me in my capacity of Minister of Finance. But the first question he asked was clearly a question, though he has withdrawn it, properly placed to the Honorable Prime Minister. And the second question, and this question now, is asking what are the immediate plans for the improvement of playing surfaces and playing fields in his constituency. That's not something that the Ministry of Finance can inform you of. I don't know about the plans for playing fields in your constituency. So, although you've asked me all three, I regret I can only answer one. And I would give this third question to the Minister of Sport, for whom the question should have been properly directed in the first place. I'm obliged.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
again, I respectfully withdraw, and I accept his answers that as Minister of Finance, he cannot explain why no monies were allocated for the playing fields.
No.
Sir, Honorable Member, I ask for the appropriation. That's a problem for your ministry and a portfolio. Over 25 years, I'm on my feet, sir.
The question was about the improvement of facilities, one. And secondly, every single ministry, every single project in the budget is appropriated money. So by that logic, every single question should be answered by the Honorable Minister of Finance. And that has not been the practice in this Honorable House. So therefore, a road, I must answer the road question. A hiring, I must answer the hiring question.
Honorable members, just a moment.
See defense, I must answer see defense
Just
question.
just a moment, honorable members. We know the rules. Two members cannot be on their feet at the same time. I believe that the last point that the honorable member for Central Kingston was making was that he was withdrawing the question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, and we, good. So we can now, thank you for that. We can now move to question number 7. Yes. Question number 7, and that would be a question by
Madam Speaker, on
the
second
member
thought, the
for-
Minister of
But we've
No,
moved
I was
to
going to switch the question to ask them about the community center where where we
No,
can't get the vagrant from. Because I promised to the
honorable
residents that I'll deal with
Well,
that.
we know the rules about questions and notice for questions. You're very agile today. I realize you're up and down a lot today. Yeah, but you know when you promise them, you'd have to promise them in accordance with the rules. So in accordance with the rules. Okay, so we move nicely to question number 7. The honorable member for West Kingston, we're just miking you up.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Yes, honorable member.
Question number 7 in my name is the Honorable Minister of Finance.
Honorable member, just a moment. I am not sure that I'm hearing you clearly. Can you?
I am speaking.
It's a little
Madam
low.
Speaker.
Yes. No fault of yours. I'm just making sure that the audio is well received. Today. Honorable member for West Kingston, let me hear if I'm hearing you a little better now. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Much improved.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question number 7 in my name is to the Honorable Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology. In wrapping up the budget debate for financial year 2024, Finance Minister Camilo Gonzalez described it as an East St. George budget and highlighted the need for a secondary school in East St. George. He justified it with references to large size of the population and proximity to schools, which he said was a key determinant of success in education. Will the Honorable Minister please provide an update on the following? 1. The proposed secondary school was scheduled to begin in the second half of 2024. We are now in the second half of 2025, and to date we have heard nothing about the location of the school or seen any drawings of the proposed school. When can we expect to be advised on this? 2. The Honorable Minister indicated that funding for the project had been secured from the Saudi Fund for Development. What is the estimated costs of construction, and has the project gone out to tender? And 3, in light of the high unemployment, especially amongst youths in East St. George, has the government included a wing where skills training opportunities will be made available to anyone willing to access such training to earn a living?
Yes. Honorable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, honorable members. The honorable member for West Kingston begins by saying he is asking the question standing in his name, and I have to take him at his word that that is what he's doing. And I note in passing that the honorable member for West Kingstown has been taking an increasing interest in matters related to East St. George. The worries me. The honorable, I am pleased that I finally get an opportunity to answer one of these questions. The Honorable Madam Speaker, you'd recall that in March, it was a question about the Ribishi playing field, and in April, it was a question about rainforesty foods, and in June, it was a question about the road projects, the internal roads in Calicoa. Now in July, it is a question about the Brighton Secondary School. I hope that the honorable member was satisfied with the progress of the Calicoa roads. I saw him enjoying a beautiful piece of concrete road adjacent to a newly laid piece of asphalt just this weekend gone. And we welcome him again at his earliest convenience. Inasmuch as this seems to be a regular feature of the questioning, it would occur to me by inference that the honorable member for West Kingstown is accepting the proposition that things are going so well in West Kingstown and in his shadow Ministry of Health that he has excess questions that he can dedicate to matters related to East St. George. The honorable member goes on to refer to my comment about the 2024 budget being an East St. George budget. And I'm glad he raised that because it gives me an opportunity, since he placed it in his preamble, to update the honorable member and hopefully to fuel further questions and comments in future parliaments about how that East St. George budget is going. The Calicoa Roads project has now spent $5.5 million out of a $6 million budget. The Brighton Road near Thomas's apartments and the Ring Road has spent $1 million. Belvedere C Street, we're up to $700,000 there. That's well in progress. Belvedere B Street has also begun. The walkway by Maya Suites, the walkway and retaining wall, $800,000, that is complete. The Belvedere Bridge, which is coming from Pleasant Flats, $1.3 million, that is complete. The road from Moonshine down to Bungalow, down at Villa, that is complete. The Villa bus stop and road realignment, where the community college students wait, that is complete. The Glen bus stop, that is complete. The Brighton Kitchen Road, $1.5 million out of a $3 million budget has been spent there. That's underway. The Fair Hall Road by the OECC, the remainder of that will be paved as soon as Calicoa has completed paving. The Enhams Road, at least from Glamorgan down to McCarthy, has been completed thus far. The Brighton Road to Salt Pond has been completed. Phase 2 of the Villa Boardwalk, car park and city fence has been, is almost completed. The Calicoa Road signage, that beautiful sign that Ollie drove past the other day, that's the first of many to come in the constituency. That has been done. The construction of additional shops in Glen is underway. The Ribishi Field rehabilitation is underway. There have been record numbers of students from East St. George who received tuition scholarships in the last budget year, not because they were chosen specifically, but because all members, every applicant was given a tuition scholarship, not to say nothing of the record numbers of Yes, Set, On-Site, and Prime recipients, and that the designs for the Enhams Clinic and the commencement of work on that project is underway. The design for the Calicoa Clinic is almost complete. The design for the Brighton Recreation Park was held up by a death of a particular engineer, but that is now complete. And now, in the East St. George budget, we turn to the question of the Brighton Secondary School. Worried, bud? Within a few months. How long it take? You are an engineer. How long it take to build a road? A few months? Man, you making joke, man. You making joke. As a big engineer, which road you know that's take a few months to build? Must see why road used to mash up so fast on the NDP? The Saudi Fund for Development project loan agreement dated April 18th, 2024 includes just under $30 million allocated to the education component. And that 30 million, I say just under, Madam Speaker, for clarity, because I wouldn't want you to think that we don't know how much money we borrowed. But we borrowed the money in Saudi currency, and there are regular fluctuations in the conversation. When I say just under 30s, at current rates, just under $30 million allocated to the education component of this project under the Saudi funds. But that project is not only the Brighton Secondary School. It is the Brighton Secondary School, and also to construct a satellite technical and vocational institute on Union Island. And if the honorable member recalls what I said in the budget about that one, it said in Union Island, the Saudi fund will finance construction of a modern $3 million TVET center adjacent to the Union Island Secondary School. So by inference, you would see that the window under the Saudi fund was just under 30, and the Union Island component is $3 million. $3 million for Union Island. And the construction of a comprehensive educational facility, the Saudi fund document says at Belvedere, for the delivery of an inclusive secondary education is the other component. These initiatives will provide equitable access to all children and enhance the learning environment. In essence, the rehabilitative and new construction works will facilitate changing modality in the delivery of high quality education. The improvements in the educational plant will strengthen the resilience of educational infrastructure to withstand the impact of natural disasters, and improvements will cater to differently abled persons and access. I want to be very clear, Madam Speaker, honorable members, that what the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is seeking to do with two educational facilities that we are currently underway with. One, the facility in North Windward, the Sandy Bay Secondary School at Orange Hill. And two, this Brighton Secondary School, is to engage now in the transformation of the physical space within which children accept their education in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We have done the revolution in terms of access. We are underway with the revolution in terms of curriculum and quality and broadening it into TVET and other fields. But honorable members would all agree that the evolution of the classroom experience has been incremental to date. And what we are trying to do now is to go beyond an incremental advancement to a radical and transformative advancement in the classroom experience for students. And these two schools, the school at Orange Hill and the school at Brighton, are going to be secondary school 2.0 in the context of what we are going to deliver for a school experience. And they're really, really exciting designs and concepts that are coming out there. The proposed location is in Belvedere. I don't know why the honorable member doesn't know this, because I've had conversations with people in the constituency about this. We've had discussions, the designs have been shown, but the proposed location is in Belvedere. The main footprint of the school is the former site of the former Huffles Ranch, currently being used by the Coastline Grill, and the chief surveyor is in negotiations with an adjacent landowner for the purchase and or acquisition of an adjacent lot to that facility to give it the full space that it needs to breathe. Preliminary designs were completed. The designs were done by TVA Consultants Limited, and Those preliminary designs were fully interrogated by the Ministry of Economic Planning and the Ministry of Education on two separate occasions. So they came with their preliminary designs. The designs, some adjustments were made. TVA redesigned in accordance to those adjustments. They brought those redesigned, those fresh designs back. Again, there were some additional content changes, mainly to do with smart classrooms, digital access, the airflow to make sure that the place remains cool without excessive use of air conditioning and the like. And they are now finalizing the redesign. And technical specification and bills of quantities will be completed in August of 2025. That is this coming month. The new school will be constructed to accommodate approximately 500 students. The classrooms in this new climate resilient facility will be equipped with modern audiovisual systems, accessible furniture and classrooms that are spacious enough to provide opportunity for improvement in the curriculum. The facility will also include a library, laboratories, TVET, science, culinary arts, and computer, a sick bay, a gym, showers, a music studio, an agricultural plot, storage rooms, and parking. The TVET facility will also serve the surrounding communities. The idea, Madam Speaker, honorable members, as we discuss the evolution of this idea, is that this school can and should become a magnet for students around the country who are interested in TVET and interested in the arts. So we're going to have music studios so they can come and refine that. It's going to have a band room so that they can work on music. And it's going to have TVET facilities. And we include the cultural sector, or they call the orange economy, in that TVET sector. That it's not just auto repair and that sort of stuff that is in TVET. But we hope that we're going to attract students who have an interest in those particular areas. The final cost cannot be ascertained with certainty, honorable members, you would appreciate, because the bills of quantities are still being finalized, and we'll get the bills of quantities in August, and they'll form part of the bidding document. And that is, I don't want to repeat what I told the honorable member for Central Kingstown related to some of the delays that we have had in the working out our relationship with the Saudi fund. We're very comfortable working with the CDB. We're very comfortable working with the World Bank. But this was our first extended work with the Saudi fund. We have modalities and they have modalities. We had to get to know one another. So there were some delays inherent in that project. The honorable member, I think I answered the question about technical and vocational facilities at the school. I would just take issue with the preamble of the question where he talks of the high unemployment, especially among youths in East St. George. I'm not sure what his data source is for that. I reread the labor force survey of 2022 to see if this is where his data came from. But the labor force survey for 2022 speaks in terms of census districts, not in terms of constituencies. And even in disaggregating youth who are not in employment, education, or training, it did not disaggregate that number even by census district, much less by constituency. So I know the honorable member is often fond of creating his own unemployment data. So maybe that is another one of his self-creations. But I would say that the Calico Census District, which is far bigger than East St. George, is the largest census district. It has both the largest number of working people and by relation, the largest number of people who are not working because of the sheer size. It is more than 1/5 of the country's labor force is located in the Calico Census Division, and by far the largest. But to answer the question specifically, technical and vocational education is ingrained in the DNA of this facility. And programs will include food and construction technologies, ICT literacy, climate smart agriculture, and as I said, music and the arts. I'm obliged.
Yes. There was a supplementary question. Okay. Okay, just a
I think
moment.
there's a lag. You have to just give it a second before they switch from me to you.
Yeah, yes.
Good.
No supplementary, Madam Speaker, but just to explain to the Honorable Minister, my information with respect to unemployment is from the very best source. It's only when you walk among the people, you know who are
Okay.
employed and who are not employed.
Very well.
And I suggest if you do that, you would understand the level of employment in your own constituency as well.
So we move.
And I would suggest that data has evolved beyond anecdote. And that is why we have scientists working on data. And hard life stories that you may encounter as you walk down the road do not constitute data. They constitute anecdote.
Very well. And so we move now to question number 8.
Science is clearly alien to you on the other side.
Question number 8.
And I
Honorable
speak
member.
as a scientist, a
Honorable
qualified and competent scientist. Madam
Honorable
Speaker,
question number 8. Honorable member for West Kingstown. Thank
Madam
you.
Speaker, question number 8 in my name.
Yes.
And I don't know why the presence of a certain lady in the audience is the Honorable Minister so antsy this morning. Yeah. Question number 8 in my name,
Yes.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Is to the Honorable Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment. There appears to be an increase in the number of rats in the Milton Cater Memorial Hospital. Would the Honorable Minister please say, 1, is the Ministry aware of this development? 2, is there any program in place to treat this matter urgently and effectively? And 3, is the filling of the various hallways and walkways in the hospital with what can only be described as solid waste a contributory factor to the presence of rats and other vermin at the hospital?
Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Just like to say up front that daily, the quality assurance people at the Milton Cater Memorial Hospital, in conjunction with the environmental health officers, do checks because we're very, very serious about what happens at the hospital. Rodents, Madam Speaker, by their very nature, are opportunistic creatures that can be found in most communities, whether in private yards, public spaces, or even commercial establishments. The presence of a rodent in or around the facility does not automatically indicate negligence, but rather highlights the ongoing challenge of pest control in densely populated urban areas such as Kingstown. And we know that the hospital, Milton Cater Memorial Hospital, is in the wrong place. There's a slow-moving stream next to it. There is a park, there's a cemetery, and you have a number of homes within close proximity, small shops, what have you. To help address this issue, the Urban Development Unit has formed a multidisciplinary task force. 2 technical officers in health are a part of this. The task force was designed to help address the issue of rodent control within the urban areas of Kingstown. And our surveillance team has been monitoring this situation closely. And I can safely say that leptospirosis remains at an all-time low, almost non-existent for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because we can't just clean up the hospital, we have to look at the surroundings and see what the problems are. I'm certain, of course, that from time to time, rodents or other vermin may be observed at the MCMH, like any other facility. But there is no evidence to suggest that this is on the increase. However, this does not lessen our commitment to ensuring that our healthcare facilities maintain the highest standards of cleanliness and safety. Let me also clarify, Madam Speaker, that the suggestion that the hospital equipment is attracting rodents at the hospital. The equipment that we have stored in the hallways and the corridors are equipment, sometimes spare parts, some equipment which we have waiting for parts, etc. And I agree, if you would say this, that they are unsightly and create a problem of mobility for patients and maybe for staff, etc. But we are dealing with that particular issue at the moment. I think there's a little bit of foot dragging on this. We have instructed that we find some way of removing them. It is difficult, but it will happen. Most of it, as I said, is equipment. It's also important to note that due to the expansion of essential and additional services and the introduction of modern equipment and additional equipment and technologies to improve the health of our population, the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital has somewhat outgrown its current capacity. And this increased activity combined with our growing population underscores the need for an additional healthcare infrastructure. And that is why the government has already initiated plans towards the construction of the acute care hospital at Adamsville, with which we are progressing very well. This development, Madam Speaker, which will not only expand our capacity, but also enhance the efficiency and adequately store our equipment, etc. I can assure you, Madam Speaker, we do not keep waste as implied. I suppose that the honorable member just went overboard a little bit by calling it waste. The plan of action that we have, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment is taking a proactive and multi-agency approach to address not just this concern at the hospital, but rodent control in and around Kingstown and throughout the country. The ministry will continue to identify rodent control programs, increase baiting, trapping activities, and cleanup activities across St. Vincent and the Grenadines with our vector control unit and our environmental health department. For 2025, we have spent over $30,000 so far on rodenticide, and we have employed an additional 27 additional staffing for vector control management, including rodent control. We increased public health education and awareness because your health is a shared responsibility, strengthening our public awareness and education campaign to encourage residents, businesses, and communities to adopt proper waste storage, eliminate food sources, report sightings, and cooperate with the ongoing pest control measures. We've been doing that for a number of years. We have enhanced that. Our team is committed to reaching the population using all the platforms existing currently. There's ongoing monitoring, strengthening our inspection and monitoring schedule for all healthcare facilities to ensure compliance with sanitation and pest management standards and disease. Government remains committed to providing a safe, clean, and healthy environment for all patients, staff, and citizens. And we will continue to take the necessary measures to address these challenges at both the facility and community level. As I said before, the staff is on the ball to ensure that rodents, the infestation of rodents does not occur at this particular hospital or any other facility in the country. Thank you.
Is there a supplementary question?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, I wish to thank the Honourable Minister for his usual fair response. But with respect to the derelict equipment at the hospital, in particular the corridor facing the cemetery, there are items there that have been there for more than 3 years. The question to the Honourable Minister, is there any proposal in the healthcare delivery for an effective maintenance department for equipment of the hospital away from the compound of the hospital?
Honorable Minister of Finance.
Yeah. At the moment, we do the maintenance on site. We have not developed any away facility. Of course, within the next dispensation, that is going to be part of it, the new acute care hospital. But we do most of the maintenance at the hospital itself.
Very well.
I'm just hoping that you're not carrying the garbage to the new hospital.
No, we try to get rid of everything.
Yes. Good luck.
Including some attitudes.
Good luck.
Question number 9.
Again, I thank the Honourable Minister, Madam Speaker. I must appreciate his candor.
Yes.
Question number 9, again to the Honourable Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment. The batch of registered nurses at the associate degree level, which started in 2021 has been experiencing significant obstacles in completing their program, testing, and certification. Given the importance of certification and the constant need for quality nurses, would the Honorable Minister please state, one, what are the issues that are a roadblock to completion of training for this batch? Two, when would the blocks be removed? And three, given the anxiety caused to this batch that endured COVID, Soufriere eruption, and hurricane burial, what further efforts are afoot to assist with the satisfactory resolution of their pressing problem?
Honorable Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, the nursing school is very much a part of the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College, which resides in the Ministry of Higher Education. And Prime Minister Dr. Al Gonzalez, Minister of Higher Education, has agreed to speak on this one.
Very well. Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, I have a big file on this issue going way back, but I'll just deal with the summation because I understand the gist of what the question is about. If there's any other information which the honorable member would require after I've answered, which I think is the pith and substance of the question, I can provide if I'm able to. On the 3rd of March, 17 students from what is known as Batch 43 wrote the Dean of the Division of Nursing Education, Dr. Roxanne Stowe Maloney, for an additional opportunity to recite the management practicum exam. On the 24th of March, the director acting of the community college wrote to the General Nursing Council because it would be appreciated that the Nursing Council, while the community college does the training, the Nursing Council is the body which approves the framework and the testing methods and gets involved in the testing themselves and for the passing of the persons. And in this case, the management practicum exam. And the community college, they wrote as follows. I read the relevant part of the letter. We acknowledge the regulations governing the number of exam sittings allowed. While we understand that the final decisions with the council, the community college, as mandated by the Board of Governors on Monday, March the 10th, 2025, is writing to endorse the request of the batch 43 students. This endorsement is based on the challenges that the students faced during previous examination sessions, as well as difficulties encountered in parts of the program delivery. So there was the college accepted put forward a recommendation in accordance with the request made by the students. And on the 16th of June, the chair of the Nursing Council wrote, following discussion, the General Nursing Council is pleased to inform that a decision was made to grant the students a fourth chance at the final management practicum examination. It was, however, also decided that there be conditions to guide this offer, hence the following apply. One, each student is asked to write a letter of interest addressed to the General Nursing Council. Two, each student must participate in a remedial program of no less than 4 weeks. Three, all absenteeism must be justified with a valid excuse. Students will only be allowed to do the practicum examination if they have participated 85% or more of the total sessions conducted in the remedial program. Four, proof of participation must accompany any evaluation presented to the General Nursing Council before the student is accepted to uptake this examination. Five, candidates will pay a fee of $150 for the practicum examination. And six, the final management practicum will be conducted using the usual examination processes, policies, and protocols of this examination. There will be no deviations or special arrangements in this final chance. I should point out that the college has agreed to provide not 4 weeks, but 8 weeks remediation. I think that takes care essentially of the substance, as I understand it, the pretend substance of the question. I don't want to go into any extraneous details other than those.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, I appreciate the response. And I too understand the intricacies of certification and the requirements of the certifying board, especially in a case where you have different agencies involved. Just to say though, that from the evidence I have gathered, there seems to be no clear policy for the students with respect to what is required for meeting the approval. And even the examiners seem to have significant variations in their understanding of what the students ought to achieve. And therein lies some of the problems. So again, Madam Speaker, this is a delicate matter, and I understand the process of certification and so on. But clearly, there are some grave errors in the processes involved in this particular batch. And given all of the trauma, all the three things I mentioned, one batch going through all of those, it's not an easy thing for this particular batch. And I do hope that there will be good discussion towards solving this problem.
Madam Speaker, as everyone in the country would know, if an issue like this arises, I would like to find out all the facts. And because of my accessibility, students have come to me and they have written to me, and I have put the information which the students have presented to me, and I have sought responses, and I've received responses from the General Nursing Council. And what the Honourable Member for West Kingstown just said, that is not verified by the responses that I received from the authorities. The specific matters which you said. There may be other issues, but not those which you raised.
All right, we move to question number 10. Question number 10 is posed by the Honorable Member for South Leeward.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Question number 10 in my name to the Honorable Minister of Agriculture. Recently, Mr. Eli Slater emerged as Fisherman of the Year for 2025. A testament to the scale and quality of fisherfolk in the village of Clare Valley. However, the fishing complex there has been in a state of terrible disrepair for 25 years. Well, you all love to stay in power for 25 years, so take that. Will the Honorable Minister please state when the facility will be repaired and retrofitted to accommodate the storage of fish and equipment?
Yes, Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to use this opportunity again to congratulate Mr. Eli Slater for the excellent work that he continues to do in Clare Valley and throughout the country. He is a very community-spirited man. He has an excellent cadre of young fishers with him, and we continue to work with them. And it brings me back to the important issue, the fleet expansion program. We had a young group in that area in Clare Valley that benefited from the fleet expansion program. And we have an application before us for assistance with a trawler for someone from that area as well. So we're going to continue to work with the fisher folk. In 2023, just before we had the hurricane, we had a meeting in Clare Valley with the fisher folk, and we concluded on the following. 1, a jetty and slipway to allow for fish landing and vessel mooring respectively. 2, a net mending facility for the beach staying fishers. 3, an office and retail shop which would sell fishing gears, tackle, and other supplies to fishers. It will also have a snacket area to provide light meals to fisher folk and villagers. 4, chilled cold storage and an ice machine to provide ice and fish storage to the fisher folk. And we had a long discussion on this as to whether or not we should put an independent chill room there or we should utilize Kingstown. And it was concluded that we should put an independent chill room there. And also it was requested that there should be a fuel depot to sell fuel to the fishing vessels. We had a further discussion, and this entailed addressing the issue with the landowners for this proposed development prior to the final design of this project. We are going to be in Clare Valley within the next 3 weeks or so, and we are going to complete this discussion, and it is something I know that the fisher folk, they are looking forward to seeing in that district. But I'm really grateful to the young fishers in Clare Valley, and particularly now that we are seeing the exponential expansion in the hospitality industry, Sandals and the Breezes that is coming, and the Marriott, that whole area between Kingstown all the way down to Chateaubelair. And we had a meeting in Chateaubelair recently. We had over 150 persons coming out between fisher folk and farmers, because as the Minister of Food Security in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I do not only have to look inward at feeding the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but as the breadbasket of the Southern Caribbean, we have to feed the guests among us. I'm obliged.
Yes. Is there any supplementary question, Honorable Member? No. Okay, so we move now to question number 11.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question 11 in my name to the Honorable Minister of Transport, Works and Lands. The road between Willing Hill and Penniston was badly damaged by heavy equipment taking materials to a recently constructed resort. Repairs began on the road for more than a year, making it very difficult for motorists and pedestrians to traverse because some areas are very hard to maneuver. Will the Honorable Minister please state, 1, when that road will be completed, 2, the cost of rehabilitating that road, and 3, is there any change to the original cost or intended duration to complete that road?
Yes. Honorable Minister of Transport, Works, Lands and Physical Planning.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the contractor Dipcon Engineering Limited has completed approximately 65% of the civil works within that project, including works on drains, retaining walls, and culverts. And based on the status of works completed, the works will not be completed by the contracted end date. Bearing in mind that the end date would have indicated that the project will be completed in July the 31st of 2025. However, Madam Speaker, the contractor has requested an extension of time as at the end of September 2025 to complete that contract. The contractor has expressed challenges in obtaining aggregate locally to meet the engineer's specification for the base material required. And he's in the process of obtaining the required material from St. Lucia. That should be here within the next 2 or so weeks, Madam Speaker. In terms of the cost, the contracted cost for the road rehabilitation is $6.85 million EC dollars. And in terms of the original cost, Madam Speaker, there is no change to the original cost of this project. However, the duration will go beyond the contracted date of the 31st of July, 2025. And that the contractor has requested an extension of time to the end of September 2025. This request, however, is under review and it should be cleared by the engineering department by the end of August, Madam Speaker. Much obliged.
Yes. Any supplementary question, Honorable Member? Very well, we move now to question.
I'm informed that for whatever reason, when I'm speaking in the parliament, the sound is most of the time not coming
Muffled.
through.
All right. I think that coincides with the difficulty I raised when I said I was, all right. We'll have the technical team have a look at it. Just a moment before I invite the Honorable Member. Sergeant, can you turn the mic off that is in front of the Honorable Member for West Kingstown? Thank you.
Madam Speaker, if I may.
Yes.
I think that we have been long in the session at this point in time, and therefore I want to ask for the suspension of the sitting for members' convenience. So I beg to move for the suspension of the sitting for the lunch interval.
When do we return?
It's 2 o'clock now, and I think we can resume at 4 o'clock.
Honorable members, just for consistency purposes, by my watch, the time is now 2:08.
Thank you.
So we will resume
At 4
at
o'clock.
4
o'clock.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, yes.
So honorable members, the question is that this honorable house do stand suspended for the luncheon period until 4 p.m. As many as are that opinion, say aye.
Aye.
As many as are the contrary opinion, say no. The ayes have it, the ayes have it. House stands suspended.
This blessed country has seen its best days. Just look at it now, it's torn to pieces. How did we get to this point? Ain't no mystery. We wasted a lot of years simply mashing up the country. Now can we put the pieces together that will redeem this land? I say yes, we can, my brother, but not until we understand. We got a country to build, and if we don't do it, who will? We gotta come some kind of plan to salvage what's left of our nation. So we ain't got no time to chill, 'cause we got a country to build. It won't be easy restoring this place, but it's a challenge we all must face. This country is drowning in a sea of stagnation. What it really needs is serious resuscitation. Because all these things that are bad have gotten worse. What a dilemma. We got to get this country moving. Let's put it back together, yes. We got a country to build. In our hearts and minds, we must instill. We got to start and make preparation to undertake the great task of rebuilding this nation. It will be a long and hard struggle uphill, but we...
The place to be on August 1st, Emancipation Day, is at the West Kingston Community Fair at the Nutrition Netball Center. For the kids, we have bunks and castle, trampoline, face painting, punchboard, puzzles, sweet stalls, games and treats. Adults, don't get jealous. We have ring toss, dominoes, card games, and a whole lot more. There will be food from the local variety of every kind. Only $10 per plate, full of quality and variety. You name it, we have it. Then the OTR foods will be done on the spot. Come get your madongo bakes and dukana. Of course, kongs, chicken, and liver roti. That's mouth-watering. A full stop bar awaits you. Music all day, and Dr. Fraser and Jomo Thomas will continue to educate us on the true meaning of emancipation. From 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Bring the whole family. Let us help to emancipate the youngsters whom we are helping to get to school. Come out for